part of the day's activities for lunch. So do have a wonderful lunch. The food tastes really good. So go and enjoy yourselves. Yes, I had mine early. Yes, I had mine early. I didn't want to, race with all of you. But yes, enjoy your lunch, and we meet back here for the closing session after 3 p.m. at about 3:30 p.m. All right? Have a wonderful lunch.
Thank you very much. So, colleagues, lunch will be served downstairs in the cafeteria. So we encourage you to have lunch. And as you may realize, we are running a bit behind schedule. So if it is possible at all for you to grab a bite, and then we will resume for the concurrent sessions. This area will be sectioned off. So we'll close that partition here. In the middle there, and that room will be room 1. This room will be room 2, and the room closest to this one will be room 3. All right, the Interpersonal staff will guide you. Oh yes, and we'll ask you to take with you your belongings to lunch as we'll repurpose the room. Thank you very much.
need to be able to emulate. I mean, I can speak for myself. I went to Davis Primary School. I always talk about St. Jago and Davis Primary. And I only had one male teacher for my entire period at Davis Primary School. Now, that role model, I mean, I also tell people the story that I grew up in a single-parent house. Strong male role models in the education system. So our discussion this afternoon is focused on mentorship, networking, mentorship, empowerment, and networking. And we're focusing on men. And my panelists are experienced educators with varying experiences throughout the system. And it is my pleasure to welcome first of the Midland Bible Institute, a small liberal arts institution in Maypen, Clarendon, and prior to this he served as principal at Shortwood Teachers College for a total of 10 years. There's I hear some Shortwood people in the room, so you can celebrate. And one of the unique things about his tenure is that he saw the single largest number of males entering and graduating from the college, with most of them still teaching today. Now, for his work in education, Dr. Clark has received the Prime Minister's Medal of Appreciation, and he has successfully mentored and discipled several young men who are today emulating his examples. And also on this panel, Dr. Darian Henry. Still want to say my media colleague, but he's definitely taken the bold step of leading educational change in Jamaica, and he is a respected educational leader and communications strategist. And as principal of the Montego Bay Community College, he consistently drives innovation and transformational leadership excellence in post-secondary education. Now, his previous principalship at Cumberland High School transformed the school's operations and student performance, gaining national prominence. And of course, many people talk about that legacy at Cumberland High School. If you don't know, you need to know. Major transformation that's taken place there. Let me also welcome Sergeant Novar Bell, and he, as I said in name, you must make him feel welcome as he comes up. And he has been a dedicated member of the Jamaica Constabulary Force JCF for 12 years and currently serves as Vice Principal of the Cadet Academy, an independent secondary institution operated by the JCF. Now, a trained educator, Sergeant Bell holds a Bachelor of Arts in Psychology and a Master of Science in Workforce Training and Education. He also has a diploma in law enforcement instructions training. And of course, he is a critical part of shaping many of the minds who come to be members of the law enforcement framework here in Jamaica. So let's put our hands together for Sergeant Bell once again. And this gentleman pretty much needs no introduction, the one I'm about to call on stage, because he's a big part of this very event today, Mr. Karif Clark, who is Director Principal Interim at the National College for Educational Leadership, NCEL. And of course, he provides strategic direction and operational oversight for the National College. And of course, in his substantive post as Senior Director Programs, he leads the design, development, and implementation of training programs. And we saw some of them being unveiled this morning. And we are so happy to have him on this panel. Put your hands together for my panelists once again, ladies and gentlemen. As I also give her another round of applause for our permanent secretary. She has to leave. And as she was saying to me while I made my way to the platform, she was a big part of me having an appreciation for financial journalism. Many people don't know that, but she used to be in charge of a program executed by Junior Achievement Jamaica, Financial Literacy. And my first exposure to the importance of finances was really through her and that program when I was at St. Jago High School. So big up Dr. Troop. Yes, I say it all the time. I did PO nothing in school, but my foundation in business journalism started there, and then it grew as I went into the field and assimilated different experiences. So thank you so much, Dr. Troop, and all the very best. So, gentlemen, this is a very important discussion we're having, and many of you, well, all of us in this room can think about an educator that has made a difference in our lives, correct? most of you in here will say that you became a teacher or an educator because of that one teacher. And I'll say for me, I soon go in the classroom because of the experiences I had with teachers in my time too. But gentlemen, let me ask you as educational leaders, and I'm going to start with you, Mr. Clark, you're closest to me. Describe your journey as a male leader in the education system. I mean, you are in a space where there's so many female principals, there's so many female teachers. The dynamic, I'm sure, is somewhat interesting for you. And it's the same question I'm posing to all of our panelists. But let me start with you here.
Sure, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. In fact, I can start exactly from NCEL. We're 19 members on staff at NCEL, and we have only 5 males. So we're a predominantly female team at NCEL. But I do take pleasure in working with my female colleagues. However, I believe that as a male in the system, it is important to have individuals who can mentor you, who can guide you in the correct way as it relates to leadership. Interestingly, I shared the stage this afternoon with Dr. Clark, who was one of my mentors when I was a student at Shorewood Teachers College. And when I transitioned to becoming a lecturer there, he also provided that type of guidance for me as a male in education. And I believe having models like that in education is important for us as males in a female-dominated institution.
Sergeant Bell?
Good afternoon. So for me, in terms of the journey, it is about looking for role models from within. So I would start by stating my journey from high school. It is always about looking at the persons within the classroom, like this person can get me higher. It is the same when I went to university. I look around the classroom and I see that this person is someone that can push me higher, and I try to stick to those persons. Within my field, we have more female at our school. It is the same thing, like keeping my roles specific then. How do I get to motivate them? Because it is different for me, because their interest might be different than my interest. But how can I get information from them so I can tap into what they want, so I can keep them motivated as we get the business done at the Cadet Academy?
No, but I mean, before I go to Dr. Henry, you're saying that most of your students are women?
No, our teachers are
your
females.
Teachers, most of your teachers
yes,
are women.
yes.
Okay, I wanted to try clear that up because that would probably be another segue conversation. Dr. Henry.
Testing. Good afternoon, panelists. Good afternoon, colleagues all. Thank you so much for inviting me to share some of my story. I believe that my own father was the biggest and continues to be the biggest impact on me and how I lead. I have 2 boys as well, and they trust me. They look to me as if I'm God. And that's a good thing, because you get into their head space to let them understand what your space is and what your place is. And that essentially, that's the drive I bring to the classroom, to leadership as a whole. I'm not masculine in the sense that a man should do it, but principled. And my dad was very, very principled. And when you bring principle, you enter into the fray integrity. And we believe that men should drive that dialogue of integrity and honor in the system. So that has been really my philosophy around leadership, instruction, and teaching.
And a very important philosophy, especially where we see a number of influences in the space and so many conversations to be had surrounding those influences and how they play into our young men today. And of course, for you, Dr. Clark, I mean, you're one of your students on this platform, so that's a full circle moment.
And I'm very proud of Karif. I just said to God be the glory. Yeah. Colleagues all, it started for me in high school. I had a high school principal who was very instrumental in my life, especially immediately after the death of my father. So he entered my life and mentored me. And I decided that I wanted to go in. I started teaching at the primary level, and of course, it was nearly all female. Even though, while I was in college at 1A Marasco Road, the shorted people understand.
And for those watching online, for context, that's Michael the mic.
Yes, indeed.
Some rivalry taking place here.
Yeah, it's. I always tell them, Javon, that I have dual citizenship, so so that's always a problem. But we don't call it name because shorted people are here, so we just
are indeed here.
so we just cite the location. Yes, when I went to Michael, there were several men, strange enough, but they didn't all stay. Only a few of us, 40 years after, really stayed in teaching. But then after that stint at primary school, where I fitted beautifully into a male role, they gave me to be in charge of sports for a while. So I ran the sports program. It was a typical male thing. I had done PE in college anyway, so that came in, to fulfill that male role. But I also, and then I left and went on to Shortwood, and I'm taking the shortcut and giving you the, yeah. That was when I realized how critical it is to have men in the education system at every level.
What about that really drove that home for you?
Colleagues, for those who are here, will know, I encountered so many male students who needed direction, who needed a father. Now, I put it in the profile that one of the things I have been blessed to do is to mentor and disciple young men, because I found at Shortwood that it became a ministry for me. It wasn't just a job. It was a calling that I could stand alongside some of these young men and help to guide them, to shape them, to bring a sense of purpose to their life. Many of them fatherless, in the sense that there was a biological father somewhere out there, but not in their lives at all. We probably share more about it as we go along.
For sure, but I mean, you started to really hit on that point, because under your leadership, as I said earlier, you saw a large number of male pre-trained teachers coming in to become educators, and many of them still in the system. So we want to hear a little bit more about what you did strategically shortly. I'm going to come to you to zone into that a little bit more. But I mean, for context, ladies and gentlemen, this discussion is governed largely under the theme of this overall conference, which is situating educational leadership in national development, going beyond conversations to implementation. And you heard our debaters earlier contextualizing that major debate surrounding curriculum versus actual development of our educators. But I wanted to zone in as well to the fact that a big part of our national development goals, Vision 2030, and we all know what it is to make Jamaica the place of choice too. Boy, no sound like on sure. To live, work, raise families, do business, and some people say to retire as well. But an important part of that is that one of the major goals is to ensure that Jamaicans are empowered to achieving their fullest potential. And that aligns with Goal 4 in our SDGs, which I know NCEL is very keen on achieving, Goal 4, which is quality education. But a part of that quality education framework is encouraging an equity in the system, not equality, but equity in the system. And this is good context, Mr. Clark, for us to talk about why we're having this panel, because there is a unique offering that's about to come up from NCEL.
Indeed. In fact, so this conversation is the launch of another learning product that was not unveiled earlier. So what this learning product is called Leadership Empowerment. And it has 3 pillars: the mentorship, the empowerment, and networking. So what we will be doing is that we will be pulling positive male role models across the system, outside of education, in education, to serve as mentors for our males in education, both students as well as staff. Because we want to have that type of impact And for me at NCL, it's not about toxic masculinity. I'm talking about positive values and attitudes that we need to see in the country. And so at NCL, it is important for us. We saw it fit to launch this initiative for leadership empowerment, focusing on our males, because we know the consequences of not properly engaging them. If I may just add, when I started, I did 4 years at St. Andrew High School for girls. And when I transitioned to George's, Mrs. Campbell then asked me in my interview, what do you know about teaching boys? And she sent me to research and to come back to do a demonstration with the boys there before I was employed. And it was a totally different context teaching the boys. One day, a student came up to me in grade 8 and he said, sir, your lessons are boring. And for me, it meant that I had to do something differently. I was in my comfort zone because I thought I was teaching girls for a number of years. I had mastered a few things, but teaching boys meant that I had to do things differently. And I don't just want to focus on teaching and learning content, which is why from a leadership perspective, we have to now look at that 360 approach which we're pushing at NCL, to look at the mentorship, the empowerment, and networking of males in education to carry out the Vision 2030.
So in my business, this is what we'd say is breaking news. So a new program, a new course is being offered by NCL, so you need to tell your friends, and I'm sure you'll hear a lot more about it. But I mean, as you chime in, you are an alumni of NCL.
Yes.
So I want you to give your response, and you can also talk to us about why you chose NCL as a place to help to bolster the kind of leadership that you are now exercising today.
Well, NCL actually chose me, actually. Kerif made a very interesting point a while ago, and I want to circle back to answer your question. And the research proves it, that in the next 15 years, our schools will be more dominated by female leaders. So as NCL rolls out its new products, by the way, congratulations on these new initiatives. It's really important to contextualize how these learning products are going to be targeting our boys. Kalisha, the debater this morning, she made an absolutely brilliant point about how we're treating with our boys. And I don't think we're having a proper conversation about it. When I was at Cumberland, 90% of the students are actually boys. And they're the ones who present the learning challenges, the dysfunctionalities in learning and behavior and all of that. And school can't be the same. It cannot be the same. So as we graduate more female principals in the system, they have to be calibrated to understand how to treat with our males. More of our males are presenting with the psychosocial issues, with the learning challenges. And as the debaters said this morning, it is too mundane for our students to be going through the mundane of the teaching and learning. It has to be shaken up in a big way. And our school leaders, and I really want NCL to understand, my own doctoral dissertation recently spoke about it as well, an out-of-the-box approach to ensuring that our girls and our boys, but we are underestimating the challenges facing our boys. Now, to answer your question about...
Still good context.
To NCL, you know, let me just give a little story. Many people still associate me with media for some reason. I spent
not surprising.
Yeah, not surprising. But I spent several years at Jamaica College. And that's where my love for teaching boys really was honed. So I did NCL in 2015, I think it was. And it was a remarkable experience when you went on that journey of transformational leadership and instructional leadership and understanding the annals of community leadership and school culture and all of that. When I was sent to Cumberland, I was sent there for 4 months, just 4 months, because I was really comfortable at Excelsior, really comfortable teaching and going back and forth, JC and Excelsior and all of that. But when I stepped forth into Cumberland, it was a minefield that I was not sure I was ready for. But if I wasn't prepared for that explosion, trust me, it would have been a disaster. So the truth is, you have to be prepared. That personal agency that Dr. Troop spoke about, I'm very happy that NCL is infusing that into the training now. Because if your personal agency, your personal philosophy, how you view your school, how you see your school, how you vision your school, how do you articulate big picture picture thinking. That's what you had to bring there. And not many people are going to believe that. You're going to have vice principals steering you down left, right, and center. People who believe that males shouldn't be principal and young boys shouldn't be principal. So I'm very, very happy about this conversation, really and truly.
And but to add to what you've said, you're saying that the NCEL experience prepared you to take that on.
It had to, because the truth is the volatility of many of our schools, they require the leader to be prepared because it's a jungle. Yeah? And they're going to be vulnerable. They're going to enter upon explosive situations. I can't stop thinking about that school in Region 4. I'm not calling no name. Yes, if you hear the stories inside, no ordinary principal can go inside there. It's just more than just board and principal issues. There are interpersonal issues as well. And as a principal, you have to be prepared to manage relationships. Manage yourself emotionally, because you're only human. You're going to get angry too, and you're going to get frustrated too. So you have to understand how to manage relationships. To what? Get the students to learn, to get the boys to behave and go to class, and get the girls to behave and leave man alone. That's what we want.
The key goals, indeed. Now for you, Sergeant Bell, you're also an NCEL alum. Why NCEL, and how has it helped in what you do now?
All right, so to be honest, it is the stories that have been out there. So I look at someone like Mr. Henry himself, and I'm saying that this person came from media, and he's now within the classroom. So I'm saying to myself, as a police officer, how can I get the requisite knowledge and skills that will be needed to drive my institution forward? So I really went there for the knowledge, and I must be frank, it has been a lot in terms of learning, not just from himself, but from the teachers themselves and from persons that have come on board to share their experiences. And it is really intriguing and nice so far. It's good.
Great. We're happy to hear. Now, the truth is, though we're introducing this new program at NCEL, NCEL is no stranger to preparing educational leaders to tackle male education in the classroom. In fact, we've had the Improving Boys Education module as a part of the Effective Principals Training Program. And Dr. Clark is a facilitator of that program. So I wanted to ask you, Dr. Clark, what's been your experience facilitating that module, and why is that module so relevant to our context in Jamaica, and by extension, this new program that's coming, why is it so important?
Well, you heard Darren outlining the situation at Cumberland. That can be multiplied by
every single school.
Every school in Jamaica. And it's not because they don't have men, Darren. I'm sure you have men in those schools. But, you see, not every male is a good model for boys and other men. Right. Let's just really admit that. And it requires someone who is confident in his maleness without chucking his weight.
I love that.
Yeah. So there came a point when I knew who I was, and I was confident, and therefore, when I took on the task of facilitating that module, colleagues, it was coming out of a passion. Those of you who would have heard my career story know that my PhD work was looking at boys' education. Right, very interesting piece of work. I still go back to it from time to time. And one of the things I learned, even as I did the research in Kingston and in rural Jamaica, 2 schools, and I spoke with those boys, they were the ones who were telling me now that not every male teacher is a good teacher for them. So the ones they admired were the ones who showed an interest in them. So, we I've always maintained that we don't teach mathematics, English, science, and geography, whatever the discipline. We teach boys and girls, men and women through those disciplines. So our ultimate aim in teaching is for the development, is for the optimal development of our students. Not, if you focus on that, then the interest will be generated in the disciplines which you teach. And you'll get the ones and the twos that you want, or the A's
Absolutely,
and the B's that you
the
want. But the focus has to be on how can I make these boys better. They come to school with so much baggage, and some of it not of their own making. As one of the debaters said, and the research shows it, that at home they're allowed to roam almost freely. You know, one woman in my research said to me, she called me teacher, friend in drinking tea a morning, I ain't left the yard, me don't know when they. And I said to her, so what if it were a girl? Teacher, you mad? Me give up bar work because me can't leave my little girl. You get the difference? So the boy is allowed to, and therefore he doesn't have any time to take up book, or the girl is to go inside and take up a book. The socialization is different.
Certainly.
So it is you now, the male teacher, because the father is nearly always absent. And I want to lift my hand to responsible fathers, those who stand by their sons and daughters. I really, really want to. So you as the male teacher, you have to accept, if you really are interested in the development of this country, you have to accept the role that you can play in the life of these boys.
Well, their principals
Very
have to help
important.
them. The principals have to help
And the
them. Too many of our schools, our female principals depress our males and treat them like they are little boys. It need to stop.
There's a
It's
colleague
happening.
in the audience
So-
who I brought with me who can tell you more about that. It's true.
You know,
Yes.
so I mean, context is critical, and you've highlighted that the context within which our Jamaican youth and in particular young men exist. So you are expected to be a man. You're expected to do and to operate in your own context, while our young ladies, their hands are held many times. The gentlemen are expected to know and how to operate, even many times without the kind of role models that would allow them to be able to do so in the best way. But talking about leadership and looking at our young men and developing our young men, we're building citizens not just for 2030 Jamaica, but for beyond, because for context, ladies and gentlemen, while we speak about Vision 2030, development will not stop in 2030. 2030 is a goalpost, but the reality is that we are aiming development will continue beyond 2030. So as we seek to develop the leaders of our society, particularly our male students, who will then become the faces of what we are doing now in the very future. For you, Karif, Mr. Clark, talk to me about how you see the kind of empowerment that this course will offer, plus other kinds of work that is being done by NSEN and other stakeholders to develop our young men. How do you see that inuring to a future where our Jamaican young men are empowered to achieving their fullest potential?
Thank you. So again, it goes back to our mandate at the National College for Educational Leadership. We are supposed to improve the sector through leadership as a college. And so Dr. Clark, as you indicated, facilitates the Improving Boys Education module in the Effective Principals Training Program, which is pretty much reserved for sitting principals. What we're doing at NCEL is that we're creating greater access. So everyone in the education system and those who are interested in education and leadership can now become a part of the conversation about male empowerment, which is what we're starting today, to be very deliberate about it. When you look at other jurisdictions, the primary focus will be on females. For example, in Afghanistan, the primary focus would have been on getting females into education spaces and so on. That's not our context here in Jamaica. We have to focus on males, which is why we at NCL have been deliberate to craft this initiative and to push it out come next April, well, next month really, to ensure that all of our school leaders, both in training, pre-service teachers, individuals who have an interest in education, whether you're a parent, is about having these sometimes difficult conversations or conversations that are not even had but need to be had, and then taking action from that. So that's what we're about at Incel, going forward with the conversation and action.
And more than just conversations. As we look to wrap up this panel, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to understand that in this Jamaican context, we always say sometimes we have a bag of talk. But the reality is that we're moving beyond conversation to actually doing, and that's what's important. So I want to have my panelists, as we wrap up, as they put together their final words, how do we move beyond just talk? I mean, we're seeing the example today with the establishment of this course and others, but how do we move beyond just talk as it relates to empowering our young men to achieving their fullest potential, to actual implementation as we advance towards our development goals? So I'm going to come to you, Sergeant Bell, first.
All right, so in terms of how do we drive these initiatives. So I'm just going to say quick about our school. I'm going to say our school because it is our school, JCF school, the Cadet Academy. So it is an all-boys institution where we, to be honest, every year I say that I'm a father for 51 boys because we take on 51 each year. I'm a father for 51 boys. One of the first things we do when they are coming there is interview them. Where's the mother? Where's the father? And we find that it's a lot of time that they don't have any father. The father is not there. So I'm there for them in terms of being that father figure. But I move a step further because sometimes I have to be a father for the father. Because sometimes the father is the problem in terms of the father is not talking to the child. And I'm wondering, oh, is this so? So I have to maybe call the father and say, it's your son, why are you not talking to him? The mother said this and the mother said that. I'm saying, all right, let's move past this now. How can we fix this then so we can make the child emotionally more comfortable so that learning can be more progressive? In terms of myself as a role model, so I do everything that they do. So I tell them that they can't run leave me. For one, they can't do more push-ups than me. So I do everything that they do. We study together. We make songs together. So there's no song out there now. There's no craft. There's no skeng. There's no song that I don't know that I can't relate to them with.
Leading by example.
So everything that I do, it is by example. So if they're in the classroom and they're beating a thing and they're going to make a song, I'm saying that I need a line within the song. I want to be a part of the song. I need my part of it. So I try to be with them as much, and inclusiveness is another thing that we drive. So the parents, they can't stay away from this. So I don't call parents when something goes wrong. I just call it randomly. Let us have a conversation. Come in and let us talk. So it is not just when something is going wrong. I just make the parent be a part of what we are doing on a daily basis.
All right. Dr. Clark.
Yeah. Thank you. So I want to encourage more of this conversation because it's out of the conversations that the ideas will come, that the action will follow. Right? But I also want to encourage action. In fact, whenever I facilitate the course on improving education for boys, I encourage the participants to do some action research. I don't know if you have any idea about that, Javon. I mean, this is not...
Well, give our viewers online as well some context for that.
Viewers online. Okay, right. So actually what this is, it's implementing an idea, documenting as you go along, and I'm giving you the shortened version of it, and see the effect of it. So start an initiative for boys. I've gone to a school and done a presentation, and the teacher says she wants to try a methodology in teaching boys and see how it works, right? So she reads around it. She sees how to apply it to her situation. As she goes along, she documents, and at the end of a specified period, she sees what the results are. More of that, action research. I want to encourage that. Dr. Troop has left, but I also want to encourage schools, principals, to be more supportive of their male teachers. Don't just see them as the one who is to kill the lizard in your office.
Or carry the heavy box.
Or encourage them and help them also to develop themselves. So there are opportunities out there where they can get opportunities for empowerment. Encourage them to participate in those activities. I want to encourage the men who are here to consider working with boys in your schools. Whether it's through a club or you take on one or two of them, and make it very transparent though, because you don't want you want it to be very clear. Work with the parents, so you're working with the parents as you work with the boys, whether the mother, and even if there's a father, work with those boys, and try to help them to understand what it means to be a responsible man. Not just a man, but one who is responsible. Yeah? I hope the day will come when the remuneration in teaching will be such that it will attract more men. I am a big advocate for that. Because if you advocate for the men, women automatically benefit.
You're right.
The truth. It is true.
All right.
Makes sense?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I'm in a room of educators, so let me tell you, if you ask me when I was at primary school, and I benefited from one of those action research projects, because in my grade 6 classroom, it was all boys, and there was one that was all girls. And you found that worked very well. We had a male teacher, as I said at the time, it was the only male teacher. Well, there were 2 male teachers, but my grade 6 teacher, Mr. Dillon, and we were all male class doing GSAT, and it was a lot of experimenting,
yes.
But he, as a male role model, was able to get the best out of us, with majority of us doing exceptionally well.
Right.
So you're right, that kind of approach is critical. But I was also making the point that if you asked me when I was at primary school what I wanted to become, it would be an educator. But I'm not in the classroom yet, but you're right. If the remuneration was perhaps better, I would have probably been in the classroom full time for sure. But Dr. Henry, let me come to you.
This morning we had 6 brilliant young people. Please put your hands together for them. They blew me away. I was whispering to Dr. Troop, can we begin to recruit them for the classroom? But immediately I was thinking, will they be turned off by the pay? So there is nexus. We have to, and I heard Dr. Stokes this morning, and he regaled us with the systems in Singapore and Denmark. And implicit behind those educational models is that they get the best and the brightest, and they pay them top dollars. We have to leapfrog our philosophy in education in Jamaica. We need to move from low-hanging to high-hanging. We need to make that bold step and ensure that our education system is put on a pedestal and our teachers are given that prestige. That's where the action ought to be.
Indeed. And I'll say soon to be Dr. Clark. Your final word. And again, as you wrap up, you want to reinforce what's to come with our special course that we've launched today.
Sure, thank you. This panel is a perfect example of what we need to do in education for our males. And I say that because we can't just think about what's happening with just educators. Sergeant Bell is not directly from education, but he has seen it fit to pursue leadership development so that he can better serve his stakeholders, the boys that he will mentor and so on. And so that is what I want us to do as a country. And I believe at NSA what we're pushing is for the conversations to be had, but going beyond the conversations to implementation, which is why, again, we're launching this initiative. Leadership, empowerment. It's by no means to say that females aren't important. We value what females bring to the table, but we must pay special attention to our males and to do more with our males. I'll just quickly add, that for the leadership improving boys education module that we offer to our principals, once we offer training every single year, majority of the principals decide to do interventions around that module for males in their schools, which is very good for us. But again, that program is reserved for principals. So we have to create the space and the opportunities for everybody who is interested in, everybody who is affected by, everybody who has a say in education and national development, community development. We must have the conversations around male education and male empowerment, and leadership is critical to that.
Indeed. Thank you so very much, gentlemen, for setting the context to move beyond just conversation, because from this discussion, we got some tangible outcomes. What do we do next to ensure that we move from the conversation to actual implementation and, most importantly, impact? So put your hands together once again for my panel. They're veterans, and we thank you so very much for leading the charge in ensuring that we have our men, our young men, captured in our development as we look to advance our national development goals. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, colleagues.
Because we always need balance, this is now where I am happy to hand over to my lovely host, our lovely host, Miss Brittany Clark, because we always need balance, correct?
Thank you. Did we enjoy that panel discussion? Yes, I believe with these men at the helm as our role models, our boys will not get left behind. And I know they're doing their meet and greet, so we'll give them their moments. Yes, you know, when men get together, you know, it's a whole thing. Are we doing any photo? Oh, okay, so we'll ask for a group photo, please. All right, so men, don't go too far. We actually have a special presentation to make to you now for the Lasco moment. Yes? Thank you. All right, so I'll invite Dr. Christopher Clark. Wow. Yes, and again, just to highlight that these tokens, these baskets are courtesy of Lasco. All right, followed by Dr. Darian Henry. Yes, Sergeant Novar Bell. Mr. Kerf Clark. Oh, and Mr. Javon Keys. All right, thank you so much, gentlemen, for that riveting panel discussion. We heard the different insights from our panelists, and of course, expertly led by my colleague, Mr. Javon Keys. So I know it's the moment we've all been waiting for lunchtime, but I ask for just a moment to advise of the placements for the concurrent sessions. So for the 1 p.m., rather the 1:15 p.m. to 1:45 session in room 1, we'll have Leadership and Social Justice by Mr. Stephen Francis. In room 2, we'll have Middle Leadership by Dr. Anne-Marie Wilmot. And in room 3, we'll have Student Leadership in Teacher Training by Miss Natalie McKenzie. So you can make note of those sessions. For the 1:45 to 2:15 p.m. rather, in room 1, we'll have Leadership and School Effectiveness, findings from the National Education Inspectorate by Dr. Maureen Dwyer. In room 2, we'll have Navigating Principalship from Aspirations to Reality by Miss Jessica Davidson. And in room 3 for that segment, we'll have teacher education and school leadership by Dr. Carol Hordat Gentles. And for the third concurrent session, 2:15 to 2:45, we'll have in room 1, primary level leadership, innovation, strategic thinking and partnerships. In room 2, rethinking parental engagement, practical strategies from a principal's perspective by Mrs. Aniona Jones, And in room 3, we'll have setting the foundation, imperatives for leadership in early childhood education. And to round off the concurrent sessions at 2:45 to 3:15 p.m., in room 1, we'll have embracing neurodiversity in education, a leadership imperative for inclusive national development by Dr. Monique Kildare. In room 2, we'll have interpersonal dynamics in leadership by Mrs. Iolyn Donald. And in room 3, we'll have confronting school and community violence, strategies for educational leaders by Sergeant Andrew Williams. So these sessions, the rooms have been labeled. They're through the door to the right, so you can look on the signs accordingly and make note of the times. And do ensure that you participate in these sessions. Lots of information to be shared. But at this time, we dismiss this part of the day's activities for lunch. So do have a wonderful lunch. The food tastes really good. So go and enjoy yourselves. Yes, I had mine early. Yes, I had mine early. I didn't want to, race with all of you. But yes, enjoy your lunch, and we'll meet back here for the closing session after 3 p.m. at about 3:30 p.m. All right? Have a wonderful lunch.
Thank you very much. So, colleagues, lunch will be served downstairs in the cafeteria. So we encourage you to have lunch. And as you may realize, we are running a bit behind schedule. So if it is possible at all for you to grab a bite, and then we will resume for the concurrent sessions. This area will be sectioned off. So we'll close that partition here in the middle there, and that room will be room 1. This room will be room 2. And the room closest to this one will be room 3.
Mic check, 1, 2. No? Mic check, 1, 2. Mic check, 1, 2. Yes, yes. Hello? Colleagues, I don't know if you can hear me. Can you hear me clearly? All right, so welcome. Session to share even one sentence that you've probably found impactful. Mm-hmm. 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 Mm-hmm.
1, 2.
Mm-hmm. 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 Well, I'm happy you got a takeaway from it. Colleagues, I want to encourage you to pay keen attention to our presenters because we'll be having a session after this where we'll be asking you to tell us what you've learned here today. All right? All right. It's gone. All right. So thank you once again for joining us. I just want to rehash the theme for today, which is situating educational leadership in national development, going beyond conversations to implementation. Our first speaker today is Dr. Anne-Marie Wilmot. Dr. Wilmot is a trusted facilitator at the National College for Educational Leadership. And she has been an educator for 28 years and is an award-winning lecturer in educational leadership and management at the University of the West Indies, Mona, the Faculty of Humanities in the School of Education. Right? She'll be presenting today middle leadership. All right, colleagues, are we ready? Ready to go? Dr. Wilmot, please join me on the platform.
Good afternoon, colleagues. I'm very happy to be here with you this afternoon to share a little bit about what I know. I mean, Encel just gave me a canvas, speak to middle leadership, and I thought this afternoon I would focus on the space between supercharging middle leadership. For the sake of time, I will forego my introduction, and I must say that I'm having a little bit of challenge seeing the slide. Oh, maybe. Okay, just thank you. Yes, thank you. All right. So I will share this afternoon just some ideas on how principals. Do we have principals in this space, or just middle leaders? We have principals. Do we have any middle leaders in this space? Okay. All right. So I wanted to share on an overview of what I call the whole space. The focus of the presentation is the space between supercharging the middle leadership. And then we want to talk about who occupies this space between, and where is this space, who is there, and where it is. And then I want to offer some suggestions for what I call revisioning the space to make sure that there's a justification for a shift in perspective in how we look at this space. And then I will present to you what I call an empowerment model. And what I have done in that model is to look through the research that I've done over the years on middle leadership, looked at some of what the concerns are, and then derived from it what I call an empower frame, and then use the letters in empower to present some recommendations for how I feel that school principals could assist, or if you're a vice principal, or if you're a supervisor, anyone in middle leadership, how you could assist in developing middle leadership. So we know that the purpose of schools really is to ensure that teaching and learning takes place. And one of the challenges that we have, not only in Jamaica, but across the world, is that education systems really are crumbling to find different ways of improving. Just maybe a month or so ago, some of you might have read the World Bank account that really just gave a kind of damning outlook on the system of education in the Caribbean and what that means for us. Now, Jamaica's education system, I don't think that we are, very different. And I am the first to admit that we have had some successes because I am a product of the system of education in Jamaica. I just did my terminal degree elsewhere, but I did all my, from primary school right up to my master's degree. I did here. And so while we have some strengths, I think that if we want to move on, there's a way that we have to take stock and sometimes recognize that there's still so much more that we need to get done and that needs to be done in our education system. So we have some challenges, really. We still have issues with low performance. We still have issues with toxic work cultures. I mean, you see that, you see it in the newspaper, you see it playing out on your television screen. Schools still struggle with parents who are unsupportive sometimes, and you have some of those teachers where some who are strong with their content knowledge, you still have a little bit of issues with their professional competence, and we know that one feed into the others. And then we really do have some leaders who really fail to lead. And then there are some leaders who are really willing, but they do not know how to lead, right? So we have these struggles. And so what does the whole space look like? I am suggesting that educational leadership, strong leadership, has the potential to reap significant improvements in our education system. And I'm also suggesting that there is a level of leadership that is underutilized that I am batting for this afternoon to see how we could empower. So I wanted to ask you, and I want maybe one or two persons to answer me. If I were to say the ability to improve schools, really, it does not lie in the principal's office, and it does not lie in the classroom, but it lies in a space between. I suspect because you're in a middle leaders session, you know that the space between is really in middle leadership. But I wondered, what would be your first response to such a comment? Anyone? What would be your first response if I were to say it's not the principal, not the teachers, but right at the feet of middle leaders? What would be your first response? Somebody would say, that's true.
Going back to what Dr. Cassandra said this morning, that we as middle leaders, we have to be that agent of change. So we can't just run to the principal's office or we think she always has the solution or to the children or any of that. But it needs to start with what we have in our space and what we can do.
What we can do. Yes, thank you. And I am sure that if I had more time, we'd have some perspectives that maybe would be different from that which you share. So who occupies this space? I believe that middle leaders, as we have established, occupy this space. And you are important because middle leaders function as the go-between between management and those who they lead. Now, their middle leadership position really puts them in a responsibility to make sure that they are the ones who, it's almost like you are translating whatever top leadership, whatever they are, the goals and the objectives and so on, there is in systems that run efficiently, there is a kind of dependence on middle leadership to translate that and to make sure that membership understands it, because not everyone sits at the table. So a lot of responsibility is placed on the lap of the middle leadership in that regard. So you directly or indirectly impact teachers' practices, teachers' disposition, teachers' professional and even sometimes their personal efficacy. And all these factors, they impact how students learn, they impact how schools perform. So there is what I call, there is a space, in this space, in the middle leadership space, I am sharing the belief that it's a space with a lot of paradoxes, but it's also a space where a lot of possibilities exist. And here's why I say that. The reality is that middle leaders, according to Buller, occupy one of the most onerous, yet greatly undervalued and unappreciated roles. I don't know if that resonates with your experience. Yet another researcher, Bush, says that middle leaders are the linchpins. You hold things together in educational institutions. But here's the problem. More often than not, you do not receive the kind of training that is necessary when you assume the role. Here's another piece of reality. Research has shown that any strategy that any school has that it needs to implement, that middle leaders are a critical element of ensuring that that happens. But in schools, middle leaders have been identified as the most underutilized position, though middle leaders are potentially the most influential people in well-organized schools. So you see what I mean where I talk about the paradox. Here is where you are not getting the kind of appreciation and the value that you need to be placed on your work, but here you are a kind of undiscovered diamond, if you will, in terms of how organizations can utilize your strengths to move the schools. Now, leaders are expected to carry out a lot of administrative and supervisory work and curricular work. You mark lesson plans. You develop curriculum. You do a lot of paperwork, right? But the role of middle leaders, I believe, is now more complex than ever, and it's demanding because stakeholders, parents, ministry, TCJ, all the oversight bodies, they are demanding a little bit more of middle leaders, and they're demanding more of schools. So with this increased demand of what schools should and must deliver, those persons who are responsible for ensuring that this happens, then your roles will invariably be impacted. Now, if schools are managed successfully in order to achieve the benefits for national development, because when you teach one student in one class, you are teaching for a nation. So as teachers and as middle leaders who supervise people who teach, and as vice principals who supervise middle leaders, when you teach, your work does not end in the classroom. You are training for national development, because if you do not teach and students do not learn, imagine, I do not have to share with you what the implications are. Already, your hands are to the wheel, because we hear about how high the illiteracy rates are. We hear about the numerous challenges, and of course, after COVID, we also hear about all these other social skills that are not fully developed, and that stakeholders are knocking at the door of schools to address. So I am saying that even though you have, even though you have all this that you need to do, I feel that middle leaders need to see themselves as leaders and not the paper pushers that you are made out to be. And I am also saying that school principals need to ensure that their vision of you is as a leader as well, and not only as paper pushers, to ensure that lesson plans are marked, to ensure that reports are given in, and to make sure that you see who is coming late and that kind of thing. Your work is so much more important than all of that, even though those issues form an important element of how schools are governed and organized as well. But if you continue, and in instances where that is the case, to do heavy administrative work, you will not have time to focus on the teachers you supervise, so that your leadership can impact them. Why is leadership so important? Why is it so important for you to reconceive yourselves not as an administrator, but as leaders? And I would just pause to say that being called middle leader doesn't necessarily mean that you're enacting the roles of leadership. But here's why I'm saying that you need to think leader. Studies have shown that leadership is crucial in any organization, and top leadership does not have the ability to do this alone. High quality leadership is one of the key requirements of successful schools, and leaders can have a significant positive impact on student outcome. Now, the effects of leaders is largely indirect, and I want you to just think about it's largely indirect. So what you do, what you say, how you demonstrate leadership does affect student outcome. But as a leader, it is largely through your actions with others that impact people, because you cannot do it alone. So principals must impact middle leadership in a way that will inspire them to impact the people that they lead, right? So the more leaders focus on their relationships, if you are an administrator, relationships, that's not a priority for you. The more you focus on relationship, work, and learning on the core business of teaching and learning, the greater the influence on student outcome. So then, as we sum up the importance of leadership, leadership is about self-development. Middle leaders has the responsibility of personal and professional development for all the people that you lead. Recent studies have shown that some heads of departments and some supervisors do not feel that it is a part of their responsibility to develop the people that they supervise. We tell them, you did go to college, or you're a big somebody, you're supposed to know this and that kind of thing. But once you say yes to that leadership post, you have responsibility to make sure that those people who are under your charge are better better for having interacted with you. So I want to move on now to just share with you how the research work that I have been doing provides a context for what I am calling the supercharging of the middle leaders. And I did share before how I arrive at the model. So the model is to engage, mentor, provide, offer, work life, equip, and recognize. So I'll take you through how what my research found about engagement, mentoring, provision of resources, and so on, what they lack, and what my recommendations are for school leaders. Now, middle leaders feel that they are marginalized from some decision-making processes, especially those that have that relate to their work. So they feel like the principal stays in the office and makes the decision and then hands down the decision, and then they are to enact that. And that was in a recent study that was published in 2025. Now, my suggestion to principals or vice principals or anyone who is supervising middle is to engage the middle leaders in meaningful decision making. And the suggestions here are not very hyphenated, because in my understanding is that NCEL wanted something that you could go back to your schools and do tomorrow. They didn't want you to come here to study for a degree, right? So they wanted a few things that were actionable. And so as I thought about it, these are the ideas. So I am recommending that principals engage middle leaders meaningfully in the decision-making process, especially in areas that really impact their work. Sometimes, let's say you're HOD. You're just appointed an HOD, right? Sometimes there isn't really a discussion about whether this is a position that you would like, whether you are ready to take up that role, or what are the competencies that you would need to make sure that you are more efficient and impactful in the role. And my recommendation is that we have these pre-appointment discussions, and that we also have these discussions and check in while the roles are being executed as well. Now, in a study that I did in 2024, middle leaders felt that their PD experiences in which they were participated, and I quote, they were not enough and they were not targeted enough. And what they meant by that is that everyone, when PDs happen in schools, everybody attend the same personal development. And so there weren't really personal development that was targeted at middle leadership. And even if there were those sessions, what they needed, they weren't addressing some of the concerns that they had. So principal decides that, we're going to focus on technology for this PD. Everybody is lumped into the room, whether you are proficient or not. And so what they were finding is that even though the schools were having these professional development sessions, that they sometimes weren't addressing the gaps that they were finding in their leadership. And so my recommendation is that we need to mentor our middle leaderships and to ensure that they have professional development that is addressing the needs that they are experiencing. I mean, many of us can relate to the Bible story. I mean, if you want water, and if you want vinegar and you get water, I mean, it's what you want is what you want. And even though you might appreciate it, if you are thirsty, we know that vinegar will not quench your thirst. So we need to make sure that however we're planning to address the needs of middle leadership, that those are understood as needs, as their needs. And that has a lot of implication for succession planning, and it has implication for your efficacy, because if middle leaders feel that this is an area in which I am weak, you are as strong as how much you feel you can accomplish. So it's important. In studies that I've done in 2017, 2024, 2025, middle leaders often feel unprepared for the roles that they take up, and they experience a lot of frustration and confusion on assuming the role. Some of them, they learn as they go, but that is a struggle that has come out. And this is work that is done in Jamaica, and international and regional literature support the idea as well that these are experiences of middle leaders elsewhere. So my suggestion then in the Empower model is to provide clear expectations through strategic onboarding, and that principals or supervisors of middle leadership need to listen to them to ensure how they can help them maximize their potential. In a recent study that I did, one of the struggles middle leaders said they were having is that their top leadership just really don't listen. Sometimes they have ideas, they share the ideas, they say yes, and they do not enact on it. They make a decision, they pull you into a room, what is your idea? And then they say, this is what the decision is. So even though there is a sense that you are included and engaged, how it manifests really, you know that is not a problem. So a simple thing that can be done is to provide clear role expectations through strategic onboarding, and to see how you can help the middle leaders to develop. Now, some middle leaders, they felt as if they were being micromanaged, and they also just felt like messengers. So, time is it 25 minutes on time? Oh, all right. So let me take a minute or so to wrap. Right, so there is this lack of autonomy that middle leaders have. So in a sense, hey, if I am to move from point X to point B with my department, I have to get clearance from my VP, or I have to get clearance from my principal. It wastes a lot of time. You feel as if you're in chains, you don't have any power, and you don't have any autonomy. So my suggestion is to offer genuine autonomy where it is possible, where it is practicable, and within the bounds of regulatory safety. Another study said middle leaders felt that they were constantly inundated by work. Every 2 minutes, you were getting something to do, and that had some concerns, connection with the kind of work-life balance that you were trying to create. That wasn't really happening because it was just too much to do. Just yesterday, I was in a class, and a student was sharing about a principal who was sending emails at 2 a.m. With an expectation that by 9 a.m. Those documents are prepared and delivered. So my suggestion is that principals have to creatively manage how much they deploy. And in instances where the rebuttal is, but minister asks me, so me have to ask you, I am saying that principals really have to be courageous to say to ministry where it is appropriate. This time, this is an unreasonable demand on my leaders. And because somebody has to stand up for somebody, because who will watch it with it? And then finally, there is the expression of because of all this inundation and the lack of autonomy, and you don't feel as listened to, there is gaps come up now in your physical, emotional, and professional resources. You feel exhausted, morale goes down a little bit low, and you're also being asked to achieve targets where the physical resources are not there. It's almost like you're expected to go out and get the resources. So I'm recommending that principals equip with necessary resources. And one of the ways we can do that is to form school community partnership. There is a research that I've done on how schools form community partnerships and the results that they get from that when they get people to partner with them to provide some of the resources that the ministry is yet to deliver for them. All right. And finally, middle leaders felt that their leaders were swifter to give criticisms than they were to give praise, and that because of that they struggled, and the whole school would struggle with low morale, and it caused other emotional struggle as well, and sometimes a kind of toxic manifestation in the culture of the school. And my final take on that is that those who supervise middle leaders should make sure that they validate the efforts of people. Say, I like the way you did this. This was good. Thanks to that initiative. And there are different ways because we have different talents. But once you have a team and that team is backing for you, that team is doing well, as a leader, you have the responsibility to make sure that you communicate to that in a kind of feedback that is developmental. So that is basically my call to action. I hope that at least one of those suggestions that I gave, you feel that it is okay that you could go to your school and that's something that you could begin thinking about doing. So ladies and gentlemen, I thank you.
I'm going to ask you to stay close, Dr. Wilmot, as we're breaking out in a brief question and answer session. We are currently running behind time, colleagues, so if we can keep the conversation. Yes. 2 minutes. 2 questions.
All right. So I'm going for the
question. You were elaborating more on the fluidity as middle managers. So I wanted you to give us a few more tips or expound on that a little bit more. What does it mean for middle managers to be more fluid in such a time like this?
Okay, so I feel that it is important to be fluid or to be autonomous. That's what I meant, because when any leader, whether you're a top leader or a middle leader, when you lack agency, you really do not get anything done. You cannot get the job done if you do not feel sure that I can make this decision and act on the decision, and which is appropriate, and communicate with my principal, because my principal was not available at the time. Imagine there is an urgent issue that you have to handle, and because you do not feel safe to make the decision, you have to wait on the principal until he or she surfaces tomorrow or later on, and we know all of what can happen between that gap. So having agency, which really will result from trust, mutual trust, is important. Yes. Mm-hmm. 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 Right. Yes, right. That's what I meant when I said within the guides of regulatory safety, because you don't want to do something and that would going to implicate you.
Often seen as the face of policies, but not the creators. What would be your one piece of advice to a middle leader so he remains a hero for those at polar extremes?
That's an interesting question, because you're not often brought to the table, but you are asked to help to implement and so on. So here's the thing that might be useful. It might be useful, or I think it's a useful approach to understand the policy and implement that policy to the best of your ability. Allow your supervisor to come to you with that under, because you are the one, you will make it work. You are the one who will work the implementation kind of magic. And then I would say, as you seek to implement, you audit and journal. This is the struggle that I experienced. Here are my recommendations for addressing this particular hiccup that we encountered, and so on. And just establish your space as an authority. I know that in some instances, it's not as easy as that, especially when it will require resources that you cannot invest personally. So the school has a role in that regard. All right.
Still don't leave me, Dr. Wilmot. We have a token for you on behalf of our partner, Fesco, and a Encel pin for you to commemorate this moment. Thank you so much. I think we know.
So I'm fully initiated now, right?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Oh, yes.
All right.
Apology. All right. So, colleagues, I just want to explain what I forgot to explain earlier. We have 20 minutes for presentation, 5 minutes for questioning. We have to keep it right, and we have to keep it right. Okay. I'll be introducing or welcoming my colleague, Mr. Jody Smith, Programs Officer at the Encel, for the next session.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. Good afternoon, colleagues. Now, our next presenter is a graduate of the Aspiring Principals program. Now, I know after you listen to her presentation, you're going to ask yourself, is the principalship for me? Now, Jessica Davidson is a passionate and results-driven educational leader, policy analyst, and community advocate with over a decade of experience in education. She is a product of humble beginnings, and she has dedicated her career to fostering student success. Now, let colleagues help me welcome Principal Interim of the Spot Valley High School, Jessica Davidson.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, colleagues. All right. No, I have already started my time because, of course, our able moderator said we have to keep it right and we have to keep it tight. And today, my presentation will be navigating that moment there. All right, good. So we're up and running. Navigating Principalship from aspirations to reality. And I want to thank the NCEL team for inviting me this afternoon, because this afternoon I just want to talk to you briefly about my experience when we are talking about navigating the Principalship from aspirations to reality. What does that look like? The best way to predict the future is to create it. So I would often say, I am not a buck-up-inner teacher. I never buck-up-inner this. I was purposeful in my actions. I didn't come and feel like this was not for me. No, I wanted to become an educator. I became an educator. And after becoming an educator, I said, leadership is the way. And that is what I wanted to do. I was unapologetic about it. This is what I wanted. This is what I was going for. So when we look at it, colleagues, I want to say, who am I as a leader? I had to ask myself that question. And I put it to you that you ask yourself that question. What does leadership look like to you? I am so happy to be among so many of us middle leaders. Because I was a middle leader. I am a middle leader. Because that's where it comes from. And that in-betweenity that Dr. Wilmot spoke about. Can I? Should I? Won't I? But you need to get it done. So you must and you should. But wait. Ask the principal. Ask the vice principal. That. But making the decision, you have to lead. And in leading is taking care of your team. So who am I as a leader? Result-oriented, that is me. Purpose-driven, that is me. I must see results. I must see the needle move. That is what I want to see. So if we're looking at academic outcomes, that is what we're looking at. That is what we're zooming in on. So as an institution, that vision must be shared, and your vision must be shared and should align. So defining your why. Why do you want to do this? Why do I want to be a leader? And we are not going to shy away from it, because we are in the College of Educational Leadership. Sometimes you may look at it and say, okay, well, they asked me to act as HOD. Okay, I'm going to run with it. They asked me to be the year supervisor. They asked me to take on that post. Okay, I'm going to run with it. No. Is it a fit for you? What is your why? Is that the space that you want to present your best self? Is that the space that will suit you? When you get up in the morning and I'm going to work and I'm going to interact with my students and my colleagues and I'm going to lead, do I feel strong? Do I feel safe? Do I feel joy? You are important in the equation. You are very much important, so you must ask your why. Building your credibility and building influence. Critical. Get out there in your community. Know your students, know your parents, know your colleagues. Have that relationship with other colleagues, building that network. So I'm always very, very, very happy to come to anything NCEL, because this is a space of like minds. You are among colleagues. You are learning just from a past, a one-on-one conversation, just around the lunch table, walking past and say, hello, colleague. You are learning. You are engaging. You are building. You are growing. And being purposeful about the act. Knowing your community. Knowing the spaces that your students come from. Knowing the spaces that your team comes from. Everything, so you can build your influence. You should be able to pick up the phone and say, hello, this is so and so. Interacting calmly, nicely, wonderful. And then setting the foundation for impact. Remember I said results oriented, And I'm going to bring it back to me, Because I'm thinking. That's one of the reasons why I was invited. Last year, I was sitting right in that chair. As a member of the Aspiring Principals program, the very first meeting was held here. think it was last year or year before, right there. The year before, yes, right at the tail end of the year, that little. And when I came in, it's front seat appearance, because I must catch everything. Purposeful, no backbencher, no back of the class, no dunce this, no. I said ready, and I'm here for it. I wanted to be here. I was hopeful, I was glad, so we're not going to be apologetic about it. You want to lead? Lead. That we must do. So right there, and it started before I quit, I'm on this stage interacting in some skit or the other. And that is where we are among like minds. So set the tone. The best way to predict the future is to create it. So, the reality of leadership and embracing the journey. Principalship, the weight of the responsibility. Now, I'm from one institution and I was asked to lead another institution. And then very quickly, the weight of the responsibility, because you think you know. Colleagues, you think you know. And why the principal can't just that. And why the principal that. But then you're in the chair, the office of the principal. My name is Jessica Davidson, Miss Davidson, so and so and so, Miss Davidson, so and so and so, Miss Davidson, so and so. If you not think twice, colleagues, you're afraid of your own name. Because you only hear, it's just problem after problem after problem hitting, Miss Davidson, so and so and so. Miss Davidson, I can't take this. Miss Davidson, that. Are you ready? Get yourself ready. Because it is the reality. Then if it's not Miss Davidson, Madam Principal, I heard that. Madam Principal, that. You hear Madam Principal and you might be like, Lord Jesus. Is the reality. So the aspiration has to be more than just saying, okay, I want to lead. I want to do this. It looks good. I think my idea will work. But ideas take execution. And Dr. Wilmot, I'm thinking it's so wonderful that I came right behind your presentation, because you see that middle leadership, you see that team, that must be taken care of, that must be inspired, that must be nurtured, that must be empowered, because you cannot do it alone. You may know how to do it, colleagues. You know how to plan the lesson. You know how to, tally up everything. You know how to clean the office. You know how you want your corridor to look. You know how the talk shop must be run. You know how to do all of that. And you can do all of that, but you can't do all of that as principal. No. Therefore, your team is important. The empowerment of the team is very important. So it must be nurtured. Reality is not just 20 persons, 10 persons, 50 persons on staff. Your job is now not doing the task, but leading the individuals who are responsible for doing that task, because you can't do it alone. I see my presentation went down, but we are teachers and we ever prepared. So I put it on my phone. It's a blank slide I have there. Okay, wonderful, awesome. So more than administration, the balance between the vision, discipline, and mentorship. Your role is great. Your role as principal is going to be great. That balance between the vision, and that vision must not only be in your head, it must be communicated. It must align to your institution, and it must align to your personal, principled vision. So we are talking about the discipline, the mentorship. You must be ready to mentor. You must be ready to guide. You must be ready to give advice. And you must be ready to have that humanity, that element. When you're walking past a colleague, and that colleague is typically upbeat, or normally walks strong, but they're dragging a little bit poorly. What to you? Why your face so long? You must ask. You must ask. They are looking to their leaders to ask. You may not realize But it was communicated, and colleague said to me, so and so would have happened, you know. But I wanted to come in half day, and then that. When you look at it, colleague would have been so stressed out if colleague. So you have to give colleague the permission to say, tap this one out. Let me tap you out. Stay home, do that. Because that back and forth is only going to stress out colleague. But sometimes they want to give their best, but they're not in the right frame of mind to give the best. So help them to get that permission. They look to you to lead, not manage, but lead, and lead with humanity. They respect you for it. Persons respect you and show you love and consideration. Resilience and adaptability. We must be able to adapt, and we must be strong. You must be able to take the blows that even don't belong to you. You did not cause the problem, but you must solve the problem and accept that responsibility graciously. Because we're in this room because we want to be leaders, and many of us will have some degree of faith. And when God gives you what you have asked for, do not complain. You say you want to lead? Go on, go lead. Go on, go lead. Jesus said, all right, go on, go lead, man. I remember saying to myself last year, you know, I'm tired of solving $20 problems, you know. Let me look a problem here. You know, students that come to you about this. We can't solve this. We already come to you. You want me to plan a program? Yes, man, we can plan a program. I've planned many programs. I'm beyond planning programs. What we have an initiative we want to execute. I've done many initiatives. I've done that. Then there's $20 problem. I want $100 problem. And God says, say no more. Say no more. And the opportunity came up for me to be interim principal at Spot Valley High School. So they called and they said, would you be interested? I'm like, yeah, man. Yeah, man. And I had to brace for the $100 problem. And when it knocked me back, colleagues, I have to come back right back and say yes. Because some of these challenges that I would not have been used to, I would not have seen. Sometimes it's a culture shock because I have never been exposed, so that exposure is great. Embrace the challenge because it builds the resilience. The obstacle is the way. It builds you. So when you get the challenge and the extra burden, don't pray for it to go away. Pray for extra strength. Pray for the muscles to say, okay, let me carry it a little more. And we grow. And we experience that joy and that fulfillment. So now you have your challenges. And I said the obstacle is the way, the challenge is the way, whatever challenge it may be. So you're in charge of an institution. The number one challenge is increasing student outcomes, learning outcomes. So no matter what is happening, rain or fall, increasing learning outcomes. A little earthquake, structural integrity strong, wonderful. Increasing learning outcomes. A little hurricane, jump online, Google Classroom. Increasing learning outcomes. No challenge should be too great. So this is why you have to take care of yourself. Feed the self, feed the soul, feed the mind, feed the body. Take care of yourself. Take care of your team. Inspire your team. Nourish your team. Feed your team. Energy. Empowerment. A lot of the times, there are certain times, allow the team. I yield to your judgment. I like to say that to members of my team. I yield to your judgment. They come to me with a problem. Or they say, what should we do? I yield to your judgment. And they walk me through the judgment and we say, okay, we workshop it. But the team understands that there's a trust there and you're building relationship because you're important too, you know. Because as a leader, as a principal of that institution, your values are going to dictate how that institution operates too. And by sharing like that, they get to know you, they get to know you, and you get to know them. So sometimes they don't even need to come to you for certain things because they know already that is going to be an automatic no, that is going to be an automatic yes, or you say it might be a little no, but we can talk about it. This is how I believe it can work. So when those challenges pop up, work through them, embrace them. So budgeting and resource constraints, and I'm so happy I was here for the unveiling of the products that NCEL have, financial leadership and management in school. Can we get an amen? Because sometimes we know of our shortcomings and we want that. We know we wanted that. So when Bursa say, listen to me. Bursa have to count the money, you know. You have to make sure, but ensure that it's being spent properly and ensure that the team is being taken care of. Like today is the 20th. So what's supposed to happen today? Okay. It's early. It's not on the 25th again. Because today is March. So I was a little bit late in leaving where I was supposed to be because I have to ensure, you know, that the team is corporate set. Basic. If I say get here early, on time. Teachers, you need to be on time. Colleagues, you need to be on time. If we are saying that these are the classes you need to teach, person must be compensated. Not just compensated on time. You're basic. Cover your basic. It shows that you respect. It shows that you care, and you should care because your team is looking for that. So if you're looking at your budgetary constraints, you have a school to run, learning outcomes, yet you're short 3 classrooms. Every minute a science teacher gone, a maths teacher gone. And you say, Lord of His mercy. And the parents are there, you know, why does my child not have that? You did not create the problem, but who is to solve it? So this is where you have to be innovative. This is where you have to partner with your stakeholders. And it doesn't only mean money, colleagues. It could be expertise. It could be guidance. It could be an introduction to somebody with money. You need to go out there and be that brand for the institution. When you step out, they must know, mind sharp, if it's, says Garvey Masayo. They see you, they say, hello, Miss Garvey Masayo. Hello, Mr. Garvey Masayo. They don't know you, you know, but they know that you are aligned to the institution. And persons are out there and willing to help. Building a motivated team. And we talk about the compensation already. Well, it little bit, but make sure they get it. We are speaking about ensuring that they're in a comfortable environment, that they have the tools with which to work. Basic, cover our basic, navigating policy and training. So we are trending. We are trending for national development. So how do you play a role? Ensure that everybody is aware of this policy. You are working with this policy. Everybody is in the know, setting the tone. You set the tone, you know. If you are lackadaisical, the team will be lackadaisical too. But support. Engage the community. I watched a little video the other day, and the gentleman said, I'm walking out there quite gingerly. She little in body, but powerful in voice. The man said quite gingerly, so I didn't know this man was observing. But the community is looking on, and they're ready and willing to assist. They just want you to say hi. So your sports day, you can invite in the parents. Simple. Take every opportunity to build that connection. Me again. All right, it's back. Be the leader you wish you had. Be the leader you wish you had. What are some of the challenges you have with your leader? And you have them. What does it look like? What would it look like to change it? Visionary thinking. Share the vision, and the vision should be bold. Nothing delimiting. No delimiting beliefs. Bold, strong. We're not going to say it can't happen. No. When I hear can't, I do not subscribe to that belief system. This is what I want. Why I can't have it? The door won't pull because we can't find the key. Lick off the lock. Buy one more lock and nothing. What gonna happen? We can't have this. Why not? Let's go get it. Can we beg it? Make somebody tell me no. We need to be bold in our vision, courageous in our decision making. Courageous. If you decide that it's time for us to choose something, if we are going to take that road and it looks difficult, it looks hard. Yes, it is. However, you need to be courageous in the negativity. Courageous. We can't do it because we don't have. Courageous. We're going to have something. If we can't move 10 now, let's move the 5 and let's see if we can scrape a 6. You never know. A 7 might surprise us. But we're not going to leave all 10. Empower others. Innovative with your purpose. Great leaders don't set out to be leaders. They set out to make a difference. Impact. Back to me again. Result-oriented. Back to me. Shifting the needle. Support. Delegate with the confidence. Surround yourself with the winning team. And every member on your team is a winning team. Even the one that come every day and cuss. And they will be there. But know that they add to the spice of life. Those persons are the one who get the sweetest joke, you know. Be merry about it. So it's not going to be, you know, okay, I'm leader now and I'm stepping out and I can do what I want to do. And yes, we can get it done. But when the reality hits you, colleagues, the reality, you really do see some of the challenges. But you would have been preparing yourself. This is why you're in this room. You have been preparing yourself. Right after getting my master's, I enrolled in the program. Many persons will say, Mike, sit out a year. You just finished studying that. And persons did say that to me, but let's study. And I enrolled in the program. I think it was in March. By the end of February, would have wrapped the program, March thereabout. And in April, I got the first call. And the first thing was, are you NCEL trained? Yes, I am. Yes, I am. March. And the first investigators, you know, they don't tell you, but somebody is fielding you out. Hi, Jessica, that. I just wanted to know, are you NCEL trained? Yes, I am. We need to be ready to meet our opportunities. So my call to action is simple. My call to action is very simple for you today, colleagues. The function of leadership is to produce more leaders, not followers. So in your very own space, no matter what it is, if you're a great coordinator, you have your own mini school right there. That cohort is a mini school. You're operating within parameters, but at the same time, a whole school is operating in parameters with the Ministry of Education. You're a head of department. You are charting your curriculum. You're piloting, you're pulling, you're pushing. You're empowering the team, professionally developing the team, and to be ready to go out there to increase what? Learning outcomes. So my challenge to you is, there is a problem wherever you are. There is an issue that gnaws at you. There's something that brings a degree of displeasure in that institution. Whether it's your fault, it don't matter whose fault it is. Doesn't matter. We don't have the luxury of blame game. We are leaders. We don't have the luxury to be upset and to be vexed and to have feelings. Not at that time. We're not going to hold it to our chest. At the end of the day, how can I build my team? How would it aid my institution? How can we lift it up? So whatever challenge it is, I put it to you to put together an action plan and solve it. Put together the plan to solve it. So when you leave here, it could be big, it could be small, but I want it to be a mini one. Test it out. How you think this problem could be solved. And I know that we might talk about it, but I want you to take it a step further. Write it out. What is the protocol? Step 1, step 2, step 3. That is it. Write it out. And then have the dialogue, because, this is what we talk about, stakeholders, bringing everybody to the table. Have the dialogue with principal, vice principal, students, colleagues. Push it out. And don't allow anybody to say no. Do not allow anybody to say no. So if it takes you to go back to the drawing board and rework it and come back, do not allow anyone to say no, because these are the challenges that you will face. This is the reality. You will come across many no's, maybe pushed to the side, but we do not subscribe to that kind of thinking. Purposeful in our act. Impactful we must be, and we will definitely be leaders of greatness. So from aspiration, I thought it would be one way. I thought, okay, I know what I want to achieve. I have point 1, point 2, point 3, point 4. Colleagues, listen, I've always been a person for the heel. I'm a girl for a heel. I don't leave my shoes heel. And I got a watch for my Christmas, one of those smart watches that track steps. Over 8,000 steps every day on that institution in my boat. Every day over 8,000 steps, because I'm heading there, and everywhere. And if I'm not careful, my work is neglected. So we have to be mindful of that too. So this is where I say empower the team, empower yourself, and be impactful, and never forget that greatness abounds, and it is in this room. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Miss Davidson. Could feel your passion. Colleagues, we can take 2 questions.
Awesome. Oh, thank you so much for sharing that. I'm truly grateful.
Sharing the same sentiments, Miss Davidson. As you can see, I wrote a whole book. Yes, I wrote a whole book. But I wanted to ask you, while you were speaking into us, you were encouraging us to invest in ourselves as aspiring principals or as middle managers. So what are 2 or 1 strategy that you would give for us to invest in ourselves on the job every day? Or what do you do?
Okay, I will share. So what do you do to invest in self? So I am always keeping up to date with all of the freeness of JTC and NCEL. Every term I engage in something that is asynchronous or synchronous. There must not be a year that passes personally that I am not, investing in some learning. And it does not matter if I think it is worthwhile. I'm going to invest in self, so I'm going to spend the money. I'm going to spend the money. I am going to get myself a proper working computer. I'm going to get myself my tools. I'm going to invest in self. So in doing that too, there are scholarships out there. My master's was paid for through scholarship, and I'm going to do my doctorate, and I'm not going to pay for it. What I say? I'm not going to pay for it. Because there are opportunities out there. So one of the things I would have done before I even made my first step for my master's degree 3 years before I said I wanted to do it 3 years time to start it. And I looked at scholarship and started to align my life with it. So if you say you must be a part of a community group, me join both too, you know. Yes, man, purposeful in the act. Unapologetic, because there will be naysayers out there say you're trying or you're behaving as if for that. But you know what you want. You know, and even if you don't know in that time and it changes and it shifts, it's up to you. So right now, I'm engaging in a training seminar over in JTC. And when the next term comes, I'm going to engage in something else. The learning is lifelong learning, and I take that very seriously. I will go online, I will do YouTube, I will listen to the AI, and I will have it playing. I'm driving up here, it's playing on YouTube in my car. It's fine. I'm learning, I'm picking up. So I'm going to invest in self. I try to keep the cost down, but if I think it is worth it, like I thought Encel was worth it, money I go put on one side, man. Somebody have to invest in you. If you don't believe in you, who will? Yes.
Anybody have a burning question? That pretty much, okay, good. Based on the time. Don't leave yet, Ms. Davidson. Yes? Can't leave out this part?
No, definitely not.
Yes. So again, from our sponsors, PESCO, like to present you this gift card. Thank you so much for your contribution. And I know our colleagues are so inspired.
Definitely.
Thank you. And then
You?
Okay.
Oh, I finally got one.
All right, so colleagues, I feel like putting in a plug here, right? So cohort 12 of the Aspiring Principals program, we open again in August of this year, so look out for the application opening in August, and please apply. All right, so colleagues, before we start the next presentation, I want to ask you to Good? Okay, I'm going to ask you to come forward, please. Okay. Come forward. Yeah.
Rethinking Parental Engagement, Practical Strategies from a Principal's Perspective. Yes, welcome Mrs. Jones.
All right, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
How many persons here have children, whether biological or otherwise? Everybody hand for up. Because every child that is placed on your register is yours. And we're blessed with everyone. Now, have you ever had the unfortunate experience, and I can't tell about anybody else, but I have 3 very ordinary children. Not one of them is no scholar, no particularly special. Very ordinary children. And I've been to school, and from I reach the gate, somebody has something to tell me. And then I walk into the school, and somebody else has something to tell me. And then by the time I come to then my picnic, them look like me, like you cut off my head and put on their body. So then can't miss. Yeah, miss, you are real mother, don't miss. What my mother did tell me, she was praying for me to have a child just like me. The prayer come true. It's not a good feeling sometimes. It's hard to parent yourself. It's really very hard. But as administrators, we can't do this thing called education without the parents. We can't. Because the truth of the matter is they are the first teachers. And whether they like to believe so or not, the lessons that they teach, they really do last a lifetime. You see, we're gone past the days where teachers say, and that was gospel. It doesn't work that way much anymore. So this idea of rethinking parent engagement, I want us to start, go please, go. I want us to start from the place of why we need to rethink parental involvement. Now, I don't know about you, but if it is that I don't find a way to lie to myself sometimes, I get very depressed. I have to tell myself some things to motivate myself. But today we're going to not lie to ourselves. We're going to deal with the authentic truth about parental engagement. All right, here we go. So the first thing I want us to do is acknowledge that parental involvement is critical to student success. If when a child goes home, they don't have a table. You know, many of us really set homework and we don't think about it. Many of us don't know how many children have a table. It sound away? Good, it means I'm starting on the right foot. Many of us set homework and we don't know if the children have a table. Last year at Haile Selassie, and I'd like to acknowledge my amazing co-pilot, Mrs. Sharon Powell-McLeish, Vice Principal of the Haile Selassie High School. I must say, Marcus Garvey Principal here and some teams from Marcus. Good, I feel like I'm at home. But one of the things that happened to us last December at Haile Selassie is that we lost a student because he rolled over onto an extension cord that was frayed. So he got electrocuted in his bed. You talk a lot about, oh, condolences, and we feel your pain. You know, so nobody buy the family an extension cord. It's on our way. I'm good for that. An extension cord. He's in his bed, like every teenager, we hope, will do, on their phone, not give nobody no problem, in our teeth nothing from nobody, in our look nobody girl picnic, in our trouble nobody things, in his bed on social media, and he never not play too much booga yaga music either. Really good kid that was turning his life around and decided he could graduate. Cause mother African dress up and cause graduation is important, it's a rite of passage. But why is it that when the kids sometimes start to turn their lives around, it's like they wake up something? What do we say to that parent? Now we want to tell the parent all the stories about how amazing the child was and how his smile was and how him teeth them did clean and all of these things. What if the week before the engagement was, you know, so when you're putting to come to school, things are so much better. Oh, you're going to look at me now. Oh, I feel your pain, condolences. I would tell you things that are not in the dictionary and not nice. Because the last engagement that I had with you when we spoke about my child, you said nothing good. So we have to rethink parental involvement. We have to engage parents from a place of knowing that this may be the last conversation that we have and be very balanced. It doesn't mean we don't give them a balanced view of their children's behavior, but we must always be mindful that this could be the last conversation. Hit me like a ton of bricks. Engaged parents lead to better academic performance. Let's not forget that at one point in our history, our grandparents couldn't read. I find it so hypocritical when I hear teachers, especially in underperforming schools, complain about the parents who can't read. For your granny couldn't read neither. Somewhere along the line, you learned to. So I don't want you to tell me that the parents have to be able to do trigonometry. Me can't even spell some of those things. I am amazing. I did the sciences and I'm pretty good. I can't balance with nothing. After 3 weeks of accounts, I said, this is not for me. I went and did CXC physics and A-level physics in 1 year. My brain isn't wired that way. For some reason, accounts makes no sense to me. I can spell the word accounts. That's about it. But I did O-level and A-level physics in 1 year and passed both. My brain is not wired that way. I can't do my own nails. I'm not smart enough to be a mechanic. I'm not. So I'm going to do a little physics and chemistry because it makes sense and it's easy. My brain is wired that way. So we need to look at parental involvement beyond teaching the child at home what we ought to really be teaching in school. Challenges include time constraints. If you think you don't have time and you have the children for 1 hour and you are tired, imagine giving birth to them and can't do nothing with them but try not to kill them for 4 hours at home. Have you ever seen those memes and videos about how parents treat the children over homework? The truth is, many of these parents should not try to teach their children. I've told parents, please don't try to help them with the homework. Because when you tell them the foolishness, I have to unteach that when they come back. I have to remove the trauma over math because you lick them in them head side and color them over the subject and the child associates my subject with trauma. So please, just feed them and send them. I'll do the rest. Don't even bother talk about it. I've taught early childhood, primary, secondary, tertiary. And I'm telling you, I've told parents, please do not try to help them with the homework. The child, I'm over the child. Have you ever stepped over a child and the child goes, I said, This visceral response when you stand over them. We need to understand those things. Language barriers. Oh, Lord. You know, the parents oftentimes really do feel dunce. How do you understand something that you can't pronounce? So the language barrier is real. I've never had the fortune of teaching in the more affluent schools. God has determined that I am a surgeon, so I don't get nurse duties. Yeah? But it's true. Many of our parents, the work is there. And of course, there's a lack of trust. Do we trust our parents? Do they trust us? We really don't think about it. We talk about whether the principal trusts us and we trust the principal and we think it's automatic. Oh no. We do have to earn the parents' trust. And of course, many parents feel very disconnected. Very, very disconnected from school. Did you know that many parents are intimidated by school? It's a place that makes them feel inadequate. They feel less than when they walk through. You never thought about it? Because when I walk into school, I don't feel bright. Many of them left early because for the same reason. Now that they're older, but they walk through the plant and they feel inadequate. School is not a welcoming place, you know. You know how I know? Have you ever gone to a school and had to move your bottom on the sufferer's bench? You don't know the sufferer's bench. The bench in the front office and you draw your bottom like down at Mustamanti Children's Hospital. And you sit down until one leg goes dead and you walk and stomp because you can't talk to anybody. Many times that is the engagement that our parents have with school. It's really very important for us to know that. So I want us to, okay. Okay. Oh, there we go. So I want us to rethink what engagement means. And here is a definition that I'm working with. Parental engagement is the involvement of parents in their children's learning and school activities to support academic success. And it refers to actively participating in school activities. Now, I remember once being a teacher and I was school inspector. And I was in the classroom and the children were doing group work. So there's this little boy at the back and he had the pencil up here like this. What is going on? Him say, miss, group work. So I say, what are you doing? Him say, miss, my contribution is that may I leave them forget it right. I said the least I could have do is at least contribute towards the cartridge paper. Have you ever thought that many times parents feel like if they participate, they'll get it wrong and make it worse? So let's look at what is here. There are 7 simple activities, and I want us to think about which of these would you rank in the top 3. Let's go. Communicating regularly with teachers about the child's progress, helping with homework and reinforcing learning at home, attending meetings, volunteering in school activities, participating in decision-making committees and activities. Number 6, supporting children's social and emotional well-being. And 7, ensuring that students are prepared for learning. Which would you put as number 1? Let's take it from the perspective of an educator.
4, 5, and 7 are.
No, miss, Mr. 1. What is... What? Number 1, how many persons say they're putting number 7? Okay, number 6? Okay, let's go again. How many persons would put number 7 as the most important? Okay, number 6 as the most important. Number 5? Okay, number 4, volunteering. Number 3, attending meetings. Number 1, you're going to put this as the number 1. Attending meetings is number 1. Most important. Parents. You are ranking the most important behavior here for parental involvement. Number 7 says ensuring that students are prepared for learning. If you were to pick one thing that every parent must do unapologetically to say that they're involved, the most critical one. How many persons say 7? Number 1. Okay, 6. Good. 5. Participating in decision making. 4. Volunteering. Good. 3. Attending meetings. Number 2. Helping with homework. Most important. Number 1. Communicating regularly with the teachers about your child's progress. So here is what I'm going to say to you now. And I'm going to say it like how the pastor called them out in church. If no parent in your school, I'm not even looking at anybody, I'm looking up to Jesus. If no parent calls a teacher in your school, attends any meetings, volunteers any at all, but the children come with book and pencil and proper uniform, you have an engaged parental body. The truth of the matter is you will not get all 7 necessarily from all parents. And as a school, you must decide what are the 2 or 3 non-negotiables that you're asking of your parents. Stop giving them a big, long laundry list. This is not Jesus. Take that to the Lord in prayer. You're not going to get it. You're going to be depressed and you are going to have issues. What 2 behaviors do you want from your parents all the time? And you must be able to tell them what it looks like. When you do it, not call the pitney dunce and black and stupid. Stop hitting them all the time for no reason. Don't tell them that they're not going to turn out to be anything. Can we at least get some book and pen, please? If you think they're going to lose them, cut them in half. So you give them half today and half tomorrow. Cut them in thirds. Give them the point. But you must be able to say to parents in this school, when you come here, for us to think that you're involved, your child can't come here with no book and pencil, no textbook, no anything, looking disheveled, looking dirty, and you're going to tell me that you're an involved parent and you're doing everything that's not how we do it down here. And so an orientation for parents with the expectations of your school is the first thing that every school must do and everybody must know. It makes sense? Yeah. You won't get everything, but you know exactly what the minimum is. Now, I want to introduce to you the CARE framework, and it's a very simple way, a very practical approach. Watch here. Never mind, gibberish. The first one talks about transparent updates, flexible ways for providing for parents, and of course, we're going to run through each after. All right, let's go back. Your school needs to have an image. A something that hypes parents up, motivates parents, tells them what your school is about. And it's a really, so for the left, Haile Selassie. That's what our school is Haile Selassie. So there's no way that we are going to, as a school, not incorporate that image as one of the foundations. Now the brown has a meaning. The brown is because he's from the tribe of Judah. So the uniform, no, I pick them to know that half my staff don't know neither. But the truth is, the brown actually had a meaning from the origin of the school. Now if your school uniform don't have no meaning, you might need one new uniform. Because the image and the colors and the things that you put in the school needs to tell a message and be a part of a comprehensive whole. So at Marcus Garvey Technical, when I was there, we know how to have problem. We know how to survive. So we entered an international competition and were placed in the top 10 in the world for the category that we know we could have passed. Overcoming adversity. Because we know how to overcome trouble. We couldn't win the academic part too good yet. But we know as a school how to ride the storms and how to come out. And we don't back down from problems. We know how to do that. So you can find ways too of going into the community. And it's not just about when things are well. The top left image is the murder, rape and murder of Price Johnson, one of our students that happened recently. And we had to be there. What we did as a school family, we pooled money together. My school don't really have much money, you know. And the teachers and ANSIL staff, and they put their money together, and we paid somebody to clean the house, because no parent should have to clean bone marrow of their child from a wall. And we realized that the mattress bloody. So we had to make sure that we haul out the mattress and burn the mattress, so they need a mattress. That's parental involvement and support. You see, when them know, so when things go tough, you're going to get practical with your support, it makes a difference. It makes a huge difference. So instead of taking money and putting money towards some of the paint and block and some of those things, we have to bury these two children now. So guess what? All the teachers decided that no more worksheets from January until June. All the money towards ink and many of the paper is going to go towards burying the children. The teachers are writing on the board and doing other things.
That's amazing.
Parental involvement. Get beyond the generic. Communicate with your parents beyond standing up from the podium and preaching to them. If it can be sent in something we can write or a voice note, read the circular and send it in the voice note. Nobody send the circular them, because you know that some of them don't. With the big highfalutin words, because they go to whole heap of school. Read the circulars and send it in a voice note sometimes as well. Play a little music in the background and hype it up a little bit. Makes sense, not true? Yeah. A little celebrate good times. Come on. Your child, you are being invited to prize giving. We are awarding the children for XYZ. Good times, come on. And that is the voice note. Rather than just sending the boring circular that children are going to throw away. Find unconventional ways. This was just through COVID, and we instituted what we call Principals Hour. And this is where parents were able to come and have conversations with us online. We want to make sure as well that you celebrate your old students. This is a parent who came to the school, and what we did was we took a picture of the parent, and we wanted to celebrate the parents who came to the school and were now successful. And we got it professionally done, and the professionally done means that we get one teacher with the skills to do it, because teachers make graphic artists. So the teacher went ahead and did it. Sometimes when they walk up to your classroom and they see the doors looking like that, you're communicating in non-traditional ways. What this classroom is about. The teachers decided with the students what the 7E meant, and they decorated the door. This is a high school. But Marcus Garvey was a little unique because our junior campus functioned like a middle school, because many of the children coming to us were reading between 4 to 7 grade levels below where they needed to be at high school. So our junior campus became like a middle school, a softer transition into high school. And if you're in an underperforming institution, and you must do that, incorporate the literacy and the numeracy. This form teacher ensured that the door to the class looked like this. You know, once it's under the door, but this looked nice. I'm being honest. Valentine's Day. We really didn't celebrate as much as we could at Haile Selassie. I remember me tell you about the ink. We sat down and I cut out almost 300 hearts. Me and some students and staff, and we created the poster by hand. And we created small cards, and everybody was asked to write a little note for Valentine's Day. Very simple. But when the parents walk in, it says that this is a school of care and will love your children when they're here. Non-traditional ways of communicating. The power of a picture. Send pictures for everything. Send the pictures out there. Of course, with permission, and we can look at the legality of that. Our students came second in the interministerial math competition. Congratulations to my colleague, Kingston Technical, who came first. But when you think about Haile Selassie, math scholars may not be the thing that come to mind. So us coming second in our maths, got a big. I'm going to rinse the picture, I'm going to post it 50 million thousand times until we can. Barriers to engagement. Anything that is going to prevent your parents from coming to a meeting and staying, tackle it. If you call a PTA meeting, but there's nothing to deal with the children that they have to bring, you're going to have a problem. So what if when we have a PTA meeting, we call the prefects and whoever, and they take care of the children? They put some hula hoops outside, you get a pack of elastic bands, you get some marble, and while the parents are in the meeting, your student leaders are taking care of the children. Makes a difference now. Because childcare is now provided. Spend the money on the food. What if the practical that you normally would have had to spend the money on anyway at high school is on the day of PTA? So the practical food goes over to the PTA. The children are already dressed, looking professional, and they're feeding their parents. You would have had to spend the money anyway. But now what you're doing is lining everything up in the school to achieve a goal. Go out into the community. People need to see you. Teachers, dress up. Feel like you look like a dolly or figurine. I don't know. But it must be okay to be seen. Go on the back of a van. Drive through the town and tell them it's a new day. They have to see it and feel it, colleagues. Get persons with similar views in. We know who that is, yes? Burning Spear. He is very much aligned with as a Garveyite. So you want to make sure that you're getting people who align to your school's vision. Anybody that is passionate about anything that you're passionate about to be a part of your school. Don't be afraid to go out into the community. Partner. You go to church anyway. So why not partner with one of the local churches? Notice I'm not talking about just PTA meetings. Because we have already decided that PTA meetings is not the penultimate behavior that we want from parental involvement. But you see, a parent with a vision and a dream can not only spark that in their child, they can fan that flame. My son wants to be a chef, and it took me a long time to wrap my mind around the fact that a really smart kid wants to be a chef, and I never thought I had that bias as a principal of a technical school. I said, take up the bio, take up the chemistry. You can be a dietitian. I said, Mommy, I want to cook. I never knew I had that kind of bias until it was my own child that wanted to go into that field. So I pull him out of Arden. Because Haile Selassie is doing Jamaica Day and a chef from Pegasus coming to cook. I say, you're going to cook? Is that you say you want, so you cook? Me, me stop cook. So many times, the parents have to feed that. That's parental involvement in a non-traditional way. Go out into the community. Let people know that anywhere the children are, you will go to. You're not bigger or better than where they come from, because that's a barrier to engagement. Ensure that when you're sending images out, find your students and put their images out there. Get the parents to think about the future. So things like the future of money. These are SBAs that were done during COVID. The children cook Sunday dinner. Video themselves, took the pictures and sent them in, and we sent it over to CXC. Parents know if your child is sick, we're going to meet you. If something is not working so well, it's okay. If you don't have the money to send now, but you can do some things at home, we're going to be the most flexible persons. And of course, colleagues, remember, if you lead, you're going to be the most flexible person in the building. You're going to give more grace, more mercy, more understanding than you will ever get in return. It's okay. That's why they chose you to lead. Remember, God knows you, inside and out. And he still felt that you were the person who needed to be in the school at that time. So treat your parents the way you want to be treated. Tell your teachers, stop attacking the parents with the worst news possible from the gate all the way. No child is 100% bad, because the God that you go to church and you come to Jesus hat, he call him a shandering and licking down the church bench praying to, you tell me he cannot make a mistake. So if he made this child, the child cannot be a mistake. And as I close, I want you to think this through. Have you ever thought about the fact that your students have the personality they have for a reason? My husband fought all through Stets. He's now a police officer. Him you want turn up on the worst day of your life because he's willing to put himself between a bullet and a stranger, and he knows he's not going to get paid enough. Look at your students' behaviors and start to think, why did God put some of this in you? How can I make that link between your personality and your purpose? And then sell that to the parents.
Wow. Thank you, Mrs. Jones. Colleagues, I want to be honest, I'm neither a trained educator and I'm not a parent, but Mrs. Jones have me thinking and mulling and wondering how I would approach these things if I were in the position, right? Colleagues, as I mentioned earlier, we are strapped for time, so I'm only able to take one question at the moment. All right?
Setting that example to dress as something outside of your profession. So at my school for career day, I dressed as a nail technician. I didn't dress as a teacher on that day. And again, as teachers and as leaders, we should do more own business. Because the children come to us, we don't know, because 99.9% come to us, they are not at school to learn. They are not at school to learn. They are coming to school for that shelter, for that love. And as a teacher, who, as Mrs. Jones said, as a parent, you never know that you'd have met yourself in your children. But sometimes we get the students who reflect. As I was a very rude child in school. And I enjoy sharing my childhood stories because I wasn't perfect. And I don't enjoy perfect students. I love the rude kids. I enjoy the rude kids. I love to change the rude kids. I normally look for myself in my students. And right now I have about 10 in my classroom. But I enjoy that, that moment. The pictures, as you stated, send pictures that the parents feel as if they are involved, as you said. As teachers, it is not just us, it's collaboration. We're getting the teachers, the parents, the teachers, the home, everybody involved, and stop using languages. I love to use my home language. I love to speak patois. And you know, yesterday I gave the child change and he went home and he spent the money. And the parent came asking about the change. So now I talked to the child in front of the parent, and then I said to the little boy, go to class. And I said to the parent, you never used to spend off your parents' change. Leave the boy alone. And he laughed, and I said, enjoy your day. So at times we must put ourselves in our parents' position and our students' position.
It's incredibly important. The hardest thing for me to do as a principal is sit in a meeting where a parent is crying. I'm not talking about the cute cry. I'm talking about the gut-wrenching crying saying, I don't know what to do, I've done everything. My doctor could not tell me, I don't know what to do, I've done everything. And for me to feel like I've just visited a specialist. You are no less than a doctor, a pharmacist. You are a specialist in human behavior. You make impossible things regular and ordinary. You're a teacher. You need to look beyond what you're seeing right now and sell to the parents a possibility, something to hold on to. Expect that they're going to come and tell you, I don't know what to do. Have at least one thing that you can suggest. Ask the parents if they trust you enough to try. Because I'm telling you, you see, a parent who's a spear the eye is your best friend. And there's still some. There's still some. A parent who will tell you what's going on behind those doors, it's still there. But remember, a part of what we do as school is not just engage with children. We engage with families, communities, and we shape the future. So let's just sharpen our knives and keep working. Remember, we're going to make mistakes and it's okay. But what we're not going to do is do it alone.
And I'll also like to share this token of appreciation with you. And I want you to wear this everywhere you go and yes. Thank you so much once again. All right, colleagues. So up next is our fourth presenter, Mrs. Eileen Donald. She is the Senior Director of the Human Resource Management Unit at the Ministry of Education, Skills, Youth and Information. And her presentation today is Interpersonal Dynamics in Leadership. Please welcome Mrs. Donald. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. All right, so I know you will stay back for this presentation. School leaders, I know we have a time constraint, but it's very important that this information is shared with you. Some of what I'm about to share are reminders to some of you. Some are nuggets, but whatever you gain from this presentation, I can guarantee you that it will benefit you in your school or in your organization, wherever you are. So, in today's fast-paced and increasingly virtual work environment, effective leadership hinges on the ability to navigate complex interpersonal relationships. The way leaders interact with their teams, colleagues, and stakeholders can make or break organizational success. Agree? Right. Influencing everything from employee engagement and productivity to innovation and bottom line results. So in a nutshell, how we treat with each other, how we interact will impact what happens in the organization. As we explore the intricacies of interpersonal dynamics in leadership, we'll delve into the factors that impact interpersonal relationships, the uniqueness of the virtual space, and most importantly, practical strategies for leaders to improve their interpersonal dynamics and drive organization success. So in terms of the outline of this presentation, of course, we'll be doing an overview of interpersonal dynamics and leadership. What is that all about? The importance of interpersonal dynamics in leadership. Factors impacting interpersonal dynamics in the virtual space, and of course, understanding how leaders can improve interpersonal dynamics in the workplace. A 2017 study published by Joet Akins in the International Journal of Advanced Nursing Studies found that lateral violence, also known as workplace bullying, was prevalent among nurses at a Jamaican hospital, which remain unknown. The study revealed that 96% of participants reported lateral violence, with 63% of perpetrators being nurse managers. This hostile environment led to half of the nurses surveyed intending to resign. Have you ever been bullied at work? Microsoft faced challenges in the early 2010s, including stagnant stock prices, market share erosion, inward focus, lack of collaboration, resistance to change, talent attrition, and of course, innovation stagnation. Under Satya Nadella's leadership between 2014 and 2018, Microsoft underwent a significant transformation, shifting its focus from a traditional competitive culture to one that prioritizes interpersonal dynamics. This transformation was driven by Nadella's belief that a culture of empathy, collaboration, and inclusivity is essential for driving innovation and growth. The above, ladies and gentlemen, underscore the role of interpersonal dynamics in the workplace and certainly in leadership. If poorly managed in terms of interpersonal dynamics, this can lead to protest action, strike, as you would have gleaned from the previous articles. And of course, it can lead to absenteeism. All right? Because if you're not treated well in the organization, people are going to protest. They're going to seek out. Some of them don't turn up for work for whatever reason because they want to stay away from that toxic environment. According to StudyMartyr.com UK, interpersonal dynamics is defined as the patterns of interaction between individuals and that influences behavior, communication, and relationship. The relationship that exists among people in the workplace impacts organizational culture and general success of the organization. Good treatment, you'll retain people. Bad treatment, what happens? They are gone. All right? Some people are even at work, but they have already resigned in their hearts based on how they are treated. When individuals are recruited to take up jobs, for example, in an organization, they bring their entire being in the space, including their nuances, past experiences, and biases. And of course, this can impact the organization positively or negatively. That's why it's important that when you're doing interview, you make sure you get the right fit. And the right fit doesn't necessarily mean the right job fit. You have to get the right organizational fit as well. That's why in HR we say, we recruit for attitude, but train for skills. Because you can have the brightest person in the organization have a master's degree, right? But they have bad attitude. And when that person infiltrates the organization, chaos, and it promotes toxicity in the organization. All right? So in terms of leaders are people in a nutshell. There are many versions, in terms of definition for leadership. But simply put, leaders are people who lead others to the achievement of goals. Right? Leadership is a process of delineating tasks, directing and monitoring people and processes towards the achievement of goals. All right? So, importance of interpersonal dynamics in leadership and in the workplace. Leaders who value people and what they bring to an organization are usually driven to ensure that the workers' needs are met. Agree? Yeah. Human beings are social animals who require recognition and validation. And even our interaction with them on a daily basis, you have to continue doing that. The nature of relationships in the workplace impacts productivity. Treat people well, they will produce, even in your absence. People are the greatest asset in any organization, despite ICT now and artificial intelligence. Can't do without people. Workers are at the core of any successful organization and school. So there are some factors that impact interpersonal relationship in the workplace. Micromanagement. One of the speakers before me spoke with that. They alluded to that in terms of micromanagement and autonomy. As leaders, do we micromanage people? You want to know the nitty-gritty? Or do you allow them to grow? Do you allow them to make decisions? Or do you make all the decisions? The principal from Spot Valley, Valley High School earlier, when any one of the teachers comes to her, what did she say? I reserve that to your judgment. Remember that? Yes, you can solve all the problem. In HR, if any of my directors come to me or any of my officers come to me and say, Miss Donald, we have a problem, Miss Donald. I say, what is the problem? And then he say, what is your recommendation? Yes, want to hear what you think. I'm not going to give you the answer even if I know. Right? I maybe give you at the end, but I want to hear what you are bringing to the table. Are you with me? That's how you develop people. You can provide all the answers all the time. Poor versus effective communication in the organization is a cause for concern. Right? How do you communicate? Do you talk down to people? Do you listen? Right? Do you communicate in writing what could have been said in words? Verbally, right? Those are some things as leaders we have to ensure that we do, right? Conducive environment, physical and psychosocial. Is the physical environment inviting enough? Is it conducive for you to carry out your work and to function? Does it lead to frustration? Does it lead to irritability? Because if the workspace, if it's not conducive, you're just miserable. Yes, it gets you irritable. If the space is too hot. Yes, I was there. I was a teacher in the classroom. Yes, years ago. Taught for 13 years. The space was frustrating at times. I tried to cope. Right? So I know in terms of the physical. What do I mean by the psychosocial? What about the ethos of the school, the organization? Is the culture one that is inviting? Is it one that is toxic? Can you see yourself in the space? Or you have to fit in? Nobody is allowed to speak because of the type of leader that is there. Right? Another factor impacting interpersonal relation is personality clash. Yes. Leaders. I saw me can't change. Yes. And they are not able to adapt to their environment. Right? They are not able to adapt to speaking with a team that does not share the same views as themselves. And it's a problem. Egocentrism, what do I mean? Persons have certain value system that could have been based on how they were brought up or based on their environment and so forth. And they come with their own value system to put onto you. You have your own value system, You get what I'm saying? So they are egocentric by nature, and that in itself can cause conflict. Because you have a value system that you're trying to project, and that person has the value system, so there's a clash. All right? Administration can be a source of challenge in terms of interpersonal relations. Unreasonable deadline as middle leaders. Do we give unreasonable deadline? Do we operate on the premise that we want it like from yesterday? Yeah. I have to undergo, all of that too as a leader, as a director. Something comes to me, just a few hours for a meeting. It's wanted for a meeting in another hour or two. And you have to work. You have to work a miracle. All right? So these things can, cause conflict. Unclear task. Unclear task can lead to frustration and role confusion. Not sure what to do. As a leader, you lead. You know what I'm saying? It is said that a leader explains what to be done, while a manager tells what is to be done. Right? There's a difference. Failure to follow the chain of command. And that is a source of contention in many organizations. Right? You jump over your supervisor, go to the bigger boss,
and the bigger boss take sides with you and leave the manager or the supervisor in the middle, what happens? What is likely to happen? Conflict and undermining. Yeah, so these are some of the challenges in the organization that as leaders you have to look out for. Leadership styles vary, right? And so you may have a situation, and you have heard many cases, the vice principal, the principal are at loggerhead, right? The senior teacher and the principal, etc. The board and the principal at malice. The principal lock out the board chair. Not call it anything, right? Leadership crisis within the school. Management leadership, there's a difference. And many of the challenges come with persons not understanding the difference between management and leadership. Because you may be trying to lead, and the person above you is trying to manage you. You understand what I'm saying? Bound to cause conflict, like a tug of war. You are trying to lead because you have been trained in leadership. You know how to lead. You are born a leader. But somebody above you is trying to manage you, not leading you. See the problem? So these are some of the challenges that, basically lead to interpersonal challenges in the workplace. So, flexible work arrangement, it is good, but it has to be managed. Infusion of technology for greater efficiency and effectiveness in the workplace, while it is good, it has to be managed in such a way so persons can see what is in it for them. Because if they don't see the need to automate processes for greater efficiency and happiness, make life, their life easier, it may result in conflict and confusion. So you want them to know the benefits, what is in it for them. Virtual meetings again, even if it is they are not seen persons, it has to be managed in such a way that persons can openly speak, to you in such a way that, they benefit and the organization benefit. How leaders can improve interpersonal dynamics? Practice emotional intelligence, right? Many of us in the organization, sometimes we become frustrated. We want to cuss off our boss. We want to have a cuss out. As in psychology, they call it a catharsis moment. You know what I'm saying? You want to let it out. But is it the space and the time to do that? You have to assess. You have to self-regulate. You know what I'm saying? You have to monitor yourself. You have to monitor yourself. They say count to 10. I say count to 1,000. All right? So conflict resolution and strategies must be explored. All right? Training in leadership, team building, and our supervisory management is recommended, especially for leaders in a sort of deliberate way. All right? Review current trends in leadership. Don't stay, even if you have been trained in leadership 5 years ago. Things have changed. The dynamics have changed. Right. So you have to do even short courses in leadership. Keep abreast. What's happening? What employees value most? What is the best way to lead, especially in a global space? And especially in a chaotic global environment. How do I lead? All right? How leaders can improve interpersonal dynamics? Active listening. This is effort, putting effort in listening. You don't have to do all the talking. When persons come to me, for example, sometimes as I'm the senior director, I don't have all the answers. And sometimes they don't come for advice. They just want a listening ear. And you have to understand that. Some persons just want somebody to listen to them. Sometimes they come in my office just to cry. And it's okay. As a leader, and this is something I recommend because it happens to me, have a paper towel in your office all the time. So that people come in, when they leave with their dignity. Nobody knows that they cried. With me? Because remember, work is just one dimension of our lives. So while we are at work, life is happening. And they have to go back in probably the chaos and all of that. So when they come to work, they don't leave it behind. It's with them.
It's in their mind. And so you have to be an active listener. You have to use empathy. If you are not able to put yourself in other person's shoe, you're not able to lead them well. And some of us, when because we are promoted, we forgot where we come from. That we were once a teacher in the classroom. Because we are now principal and vice principal and senior teacher or director. Right? Or managers. We forgot where we're coming from. Are you approachable? Can persons come to you? Or they are so fearful they have to speak to 4 persons before they and with the hope that information reaches you. Are you that type of leader? Are you approachable? Leaders, in order to improve interpersonal dynamics, you are expected to engage in staff welfare activity. It's not all about the lesson plan all the time. It's not all about reaching your target all the time. You have to let down your ears. You have to interact, build camaraderie, gel with the team, play some games, go out on a trip, beach trip or whatever it is, but engage in some welfare activity with the team. All right? Establish rewards and recognition program. It doesn't make sense you hold people accountable. They're doing the work and they are not being recognized. Employee of the month, give a commendation. When my directors, for example, turn in their report, their monthly report on time, I just stop at Mega Mart. I just bought kittles. Let's give them. I don't have to, it doesn't have to be something expensive. With me? Just say, I appreciate what you have done. Just comment. You can tell them word of mouth, but sometimes you want to give them something. And if you can afford to give them anything else, as long as you can afford it, right? Let's practice interpersonal communication. And we have a short video. Just click on it, double click twice. Not working? Huh? I don't know why the video is not playing, but go back. All right, I don't know why it's not playing, but anyway, it's about how do you communicate in an effective way and to foster interpersonal dynamics among your team. All right. And so, in terms of interpersonal dynamics, whether or not you operate in a space where you have a small school, right? Can leave it at that last slide. Can forget about the video because it's going to take up some time. Right. So effective leadership is deeply rooted in interpersonal dynamics, which significantly impacts organization success. Interpersonal dynamics in the workplace influences employee engagement, productivity and innovation, making it crucial for leaders to understand and manage these dynamics. Factors, as we would have alluded to, impact interpersonal dynamics, including communication style, emotional intelligence. Dynamics can either strengthen or weaken interpersonal relations. To improve interpersonal dynamics, leaders can focus on developing self-awareness and emotional intelligence, plan and implement social activities, as was alluded to, cultivate effective communication and active listening skills, building trust and empathy with team members, adapting leadership styles to suit different personalities and situations, leveraging technology to facilitate collaboration and connection in a virtual space. And in terms of conclusion, I just want to share quick quotes with you from Richard Branson. You know him well, right? Co-founder of British Airline Groups. Train people well enough so they can leave. Treat people well enough so they don't want to leave. Could you read the last one for me, everybody, please? Can you see it? Right, and that is from Danielle Pink. And there ends my presentation.
Thank you so much for that, Mrs. Donald. I just want to say, though, that when I cry, it stays on my face for the entire day. Right? Colleagues, again, we have time for one question, comment. Anyone? Oh, sorry.
I truly admired your presentation on how important it is for us as middle managers to treat our staff better. I felt that it is right now in the Jamaican space where the teachers are leaving, the teachers are disengaged, they feel a disconnect, and you gave some really practical solutions, even if we don't have any money, from where to start. So I really admire the presentation.
Another question, another comment, question?
Good afternoon, everyone. We talk about the dynamics in leadership. You spoke about empathy and the rewards and recognition program. But I always hear about the reward and recognition program. But why is it at the work, at school, at church, you have persons who put in the extra effort to be punctual, to always be present, to put in the extra work, go the extra miles, but then the reward and recognition, it just takes forever to come. And then that demotivates the employees, because we talk about it all the time in training, rewards and recognition, but we don't see it coming. Could be just employee of the quarter, a certificate to say job well done. It's something simple, but it seems hard. It takes long to come.
Yes. Well, it depends on your, organization and how you operate and the criteria that is used to give rewards and recognition, right? For certainly at the ministry where I work, Ministry of Education, Youth, Skills, Youth and Information, it's based on performance. So, and that is done, the evaluation is done twice per year, but the rewards and recognition is done once per year. But even within that period, managers and directors, they have that autonomy where they can actually commend or reward their team members. They don't have to wait until the end of the year. All right, I do that all the time. And there are managers like me and directors who do that. They take their staff out for lunch and so forth, once they can afford it. But there are some things that money cannot buy. You know what I'm saying? Just a commendation. Just for example, I was, I left my charger and, my computer was going dead, and I called the office and I called my admin, and I didn't have to say anything more to her. It was on the way and it came just before my presentation, and I sent a little note to her. Thank you. You are so much appreciated. We can do. We don't have to wait until the end of the year, as mentioned. And, some things, it's not money. You don't need money to do it. So I agree with you.
All right. Thank you once again, Mrs. Donald. And of course, I'm going to present to you our little token, and I'm going to give you the same advice I gave Mrs. Jones. Remember to wear it all the time. So when I stop by HR, I want to see it. Yes. All right, colleagues. So this concludes our concurrent session for today. I hope that it was beneficial to you in some way or shape. We will be breaking down. No. Okay. All right. All right. So initially, I think there's a change in the program. There's a change? Okay. Please allow me to revert to you momentarily. All right. So initially we would have had you leave the room, but we will be continuing the session now with our keynote speaker. I believe it's Mr. and Professor Andrew Spence, right? And then afterwards we'll commence with the remaining awards, and then we will close the day's proceedings.
Test. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. How are we feeling after a full day of leadership training, workshop, keynote messages, presentations? Did we enjoy the sessions? Yes. Good, good. Awesome. I hope you took a lot of notes, and we look forward to seeing how you implement all that you've learned into your respective spaces. So we are here for the afternoon segment, and this part we won't keep it too long. We're going to keep it short and spicy. But again, we want to close off in fine style for Leadership Day 2025. Now, of course, we are going to launch another component of the leadership, the National College for Educational Leadership. And this I invite Terrian Wallace, our Director of Quality Assurance, to join me on the platform as we launch another component of NCEL. Please join, give her a big clap, man. Let's keep the energy light same way. All right, so for this one, all right. So as you would have seen, the lovely banners that we had earlier showcasing the different products and services on the NCEL. And the other one that we'll share with you now is called QA Connect. So quality assurance in education is critical in ensuring that both the schools and the system at large operate efficiently, meet or exceed established standards, and continuously evolve to provide quality education. QA Connect Strengthening Best Practices for Sustainable School Improvement is a quarterly initiative designed to empower school and system leaders with knowledge, skills, and strategies to effectively implement and sustain quality assurance practices. The initiative provides a structured platform for capacity building through networking and practical implementation of QA principles. And at this time, I'll invite Mysterian Wallace just to give us a brief insight into the pillars of QA Connect. Please join me in welcoming her.
All right, a pleasant afternoon, everyone. So based on QA Connect, as Miss Brittany just shared with you, quality assurance is important in education, and the pillars that we'll be covering is operational efficiency, service excellence and stakeholder engagement, as well as quality control and quality management. The idea of this initiative is to be presented in a webinar format, and for next Leadership Day, we will do the last one. So the last one will be face-to-face, but each quarter we'll present. So we'll partner with different entities, partner with a JTech, NEI, Parenting, just to come and just to bring to you different aspects of quality assurance and what you can do in your spaces as leaders in order to bring about, to ensure that the standards are in your schools and that you are able to implement and maintain them for better leadership, for sustainable education, and for holistic approach and improvement for your school community. So in a nutshell, that's pretty much what QA Connect will be. So it's a webinar, so you can look forward to it, which we'll be doing on a quarterly basis that we'll partner with other entities to deliver to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Wallace. So again, just to remind you of all the different areas, we have QA Connect, Leadership Footprints, Leadership 360, Leadership in Action, a practical guide to transforming schools, Introduction to School and System Leadership, Financial Leadership and Management in School, FLMS. And of course, we saw our panel discussion, which is also a part of the products and services that NCEL will be providing. And that is titled Leadership Empowerment, with emphasis on the men. All right. So I'm going to call this my VIP club, right? So all of you stayed right through with me to the end, and you stuck around for an important presentation by our next keynote speaker. His name is Professor Andrew Spencer, and he's the president of the Caribbean Maritime University. Professor Andrew Spencer joined the Caribbean Maritime University as president on September 12, 2022. He was conferred with the Order of Distinction in the rank of Commander on August 6, 2024, by the Governor General upon the recommendation of the Prime Minister of Jamaica. Distinguished as the first individual to be promoted to the rank of full professor in the substantive field of tourism at the University of the West Indies, Mona, Professor Spencer served as professor and deputy executive director at the Mona School of Business and Management. In this capacity, he held responsibility for overseeing all undergraduate programs, showcasing his adept leadership in academic management. Professor Spencer served for 4 years as the executive director of the Tourism Product Development Company Limited, TPDCO, the agency responsible for the maintenance, development, and enhancement of the tourism product in Jamaica, and the largest agency in the Ministry of Tourism. He also gave a stellar service from 2013 to 2017 as the director of the Center for Hotel and Tourism Management, CHTM, at the University of the West Indies in Nassau, Bahamas. A scholar of exceptional standing, Professor Spencer holds a Bachelor of Science and a Master of Science in Tourism Management from the University of the West Indies and earned his PhD in Strategic Management and Tourism from Bournemouth University in the United Kingdom. His outstanding academic achievements were further recognized when his PhD thesis received the prestigious Institute for Travel and Tourism, ITT, PhD Student of the Year 2011-2012 award. His extensive research portfolio comprises over 50 scholarly publications and 5 authored books published by top international publishers, reflecting his commitment to advancing knowledge and innovation in the field of tourism. Currently, Professor Spencer holds key positions in private and public sector boards, serving as the chairman of the National Insurance Fund and the National Education Trust, commissioner of the National Water Commission, and director of the University Council of Jamaica. Additionally, he lends his expertise as a director of the board, of Express Catering Limited, Margaritaville Turks and Caicos Islands, National Education Trust, and Sandal Corporate University. A passionate advocate for education, Professor Spencer's leadership extends to his role as president of the Woolmer's Old Boys Association and as a member of the Woolmer's Boys and Girls Schools Board of Management, emphasizing his commitment to nurturing future generations. Please join me in welcoming our keynote address speaker, Professor Andrew Spencer.
Thank you very much. Let's give her another round of applause, please. So I'm tweaking how I approach my presentation, given that we've lost half of the room, but I'm also looking at how you're positioned, and I think you're going to give me a bad neck because we're